Welcome everybody to Call of Duty Challengers Elite. It's time to continue stage 1 of all of the action. We're going to be kicking things off today with the European region. And well, this is the first time you're going to be seeing our faces together as a combination this season. Of course, bringing you all the coverage for today is myself, Infinity, joined by the ever wonderful Proper Andy. How are you doing today, buddy?
Feeling good, man. You know, we had a great first day yesterday. Alan and Austin did a great job just tour guiding through all of the wonderful action that we had here in the European region as a whole. I'm excited to see how things get shaken up today.
Yeah, indeed. Let's talk about our formatting, then getting straight into this for today, of course, Call of Duty Challengers Elite. Things are looking a little bit different, I think, for the season. There's one thing that we definitely need to be talking about, of course, and that is a change to the way these teams qualify straight out of the round-robin stage. That is where these teams are going to be starting out, Andy. But we do have a little bit of the change in terms of how many teams actually make it out of this round-robin stage this time around.
Yeah, top 4 teams end up putting themselves in a double elimination bracket that is at the end of the round-robin stage. Once every team plays a minimum of 7 matches, you place in top 8. In the bottom 4, you're relegated. You're out. You're donezo. You have to go back to the qualification that's going to be happening at the end of the month for stage 2.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's take a look at our standings then to show you guys where everybody sits right now. Of course, so far, teams of Europe have only played 2 games apiece. Of course, today they will play 2 more. And Andy, everything right now kind of sitting exactly, generally speaking, as we would expect. We've got a couple of teams sitting 2-0, a couple of teams sitting at the bottom that haven't managed to win a match yet.
Yeah, definitely able to win some maps. You see TMT, Flux Esports down there, able to take at least a few maps, keeping it competitive, but that word competitive is going to be thrown a lot, especially between you and me, Brody. I don't think we've ever seen top 8 teams here in the European region be so close.
Yeah, absolutely. Although I will say, you know, looking at these standings overall, this is relatively reminiscent of what we kind of saw at the beginning of last season with Season 1, right? I mean, we had like 7 teams and then I don't want to bring this up because I know those guys probably want to forget that stage in a way, but if you kind of bring your mind back towards that stage at the very beginning of the Black Ops Cold War season, you kind of have Team 3G that kind of felt a little bit like the team that were kind of outside the rest of the 7 teams there.
Sure.
We might well have a case of that once again here with the standings, but of course, we'll see coming into today how teams at the very bottom of those standings will be doing. But I mean, let's talk about our match then for today here as we move forward, Andy, because of course it's an interesting one to kick things off. We've got some great matches. I couldn't believe it when we were told what matches we were casting today. We're going to be kicking things off with the Originals going head-to-head with Sucrees Bakery. Let's first and foremost talk about the team at the beginning of that sentence. This is the Originals, a roster where we look at the core 3 here. They have some serious chemistry.
Yeah, they absolutely do. You know, Furious, Nile, Grad, and Rafi. When you're talking about this team as a whole, Grad, Furious, and Rafi, they teamed as 3. They placed 6th throughout Stage 4 just last season in Cold War. And then Furious was replaced by Chain for EU Finals. So definitely nice to be able to see these 3 end up coupling along together again. And then you have Nile coming into the mix. Nile is going to be a player that we kind of talk a lot about this roster as a whole. He complements this core 3 to such a high degree. And with that being said, what they end up bringing to the table is that explosive nature that we feel like that this core 3 was almost missing throughout the entirety of the Cold War season. Their Search and Destroy has become an absolute boon of success for them, and they need to almost lean on that going forward if they want to continue to take maps and matches off of these EU teams.
Yeah, absolutely. We talk about Search and Destroy as this roster. It is just absolutely their strongest mode. I think this is what the core 3, of course, we're talking about Furious, Furious, Grad, and Rafi, sorry. That core 3, they've been playing together for the longest time, and they actually came up from the Search and Destroy scene into Respawn all the way back, and I think it was like Black Ops 4. When they first made that transition. So these guys, they look pretty good. Search and Destroy is what we're going to be looking at today. But let's also take a look at their opposition, Sucrees Bakery. This roster, they have gone from strength to strength. Of course, they recently brought Eric Boom into the team to reform that Mavericks roster from the Black Ops Cold War season.
Yeah, of course, Eric Boom not playing with this core 3 at the beginning of the season, was playing underneath a team name of Ponder Replay with Beans and Maple and them. That team obviously dispersed, and now Eric Boom is back. You go back to the Cold War season as well. Yako ended up going to play with Journey and Co. towards the tail end of the season, and then they brought in Vickle. But this is the core 4 of that Mavericks roster that we saw from the Cold War season. Eric Broom, he provides such a great addition. He just complements everything that the squad wants to be able to do. They're so decisive. You know that they're going to be able to rely on each other, and that goes even beyond their Search and Destroy commitments. That also goes down to the rotations on hardpoint. It goes down to how they're solidifying themselves as a top team. Because as a whole, Brody, when you do see it, they are tied for first currently at 2-0, but they have the greatest map win percentage across all EU teams, sitting at 86% overall.
Yeah, absolutely. Sucrees Bakery, they only lost the one map yesterday. That was versus TMT. That was a Gavutu hardpoint, 236 to 250 scoreline, by the way. So that could well have been a win, and they might well have just finished the day flawlessly. But so far, both of these rosters are looking pretty good. And really kind of looking at the head-to-head here. In terms of players to watch there, you know, we've got to look at the rosters now. We'll start with Originals here in this conversation. Who are you really looking out for to stand out here on this team?
It's got to be Furious. Furious had a fantastic day yesterday. Was the standout player, if you will, for them. They had a 1.15 KD overall. Keep in mind, that's not K80. No assists intertwined with any of these stats at all that I'm reading for you all. It is 1.15 KD total. They had a 1.33 KD in Search and Destroy, to the point that we were bringing up when we were looking at the rosters. That is, again, going to be their call for success. If they're going to be able to take maps off of this team of Sucrees Bakery, it's going to have to come on the back end of Search and Destroy to be able to put themselves ahead, to be able to get into that 5th and final map as well.
Yeah, well, you and I do have some keys to victory to go through here that we kind of cooked up for everybody at home before we got into our matchup. Let's take a look at the series layout to show whether or not our conversations are kind of coming to bear. Now, this is a very interesting series layout, of course. We're going to be kicking things off with Gavutu hardpoint to start the series. Berlin Search and Destroy will follow up. That Tuscan Control, perhaps the most interesting pick here of the lot, and we'll talk about why in just a second. Berlin Hardpoint and Desert Siege will be the maps to close out our series if we need to go the distance. Now, before we talk about that Tuscan Control, Gavutu Hardpoint, of course, I did just mention it. This was the map, Andy, that, of course, Sucrees Bakery did lose to TMT yesterday.
Yeah, and when you and I were kind of watching over that matchup and back for us to give you all a kind of perspective at home, if you did not end up watching that as well, it's one of those things that the Sucrees Bakery roster just came out a little cold. They were down by a solid 90 points or so going into the second set of rotation, which does speak volumes about how they were able to only lose by a total of 14 points. This team's success basically garners off of them being able to find one another's chemistry with one another. Once they really start get that ball rolling, Brody, it's really hard to stop that snowball.
Yeah, indeed. Now, the reason I did want to bring up the Tuscan Control, of course, that will be the map that's chosen in this series. Now, we were kind of trying to work out how the veto process would go. I believe that the highest seed gets to choose the map that was played on Control. Now, looking towards yesterday, of course, one of the things that you and I kind of noted in this one is the Originals cannot play Gavutu Control versus Sucrees Bakery, of course. They didn't lose a single round on it, and they played it twice yesterday overall. So I think, you know, them coming in with the highest seed into the veto process, I think for them, it was very important that they managed to make sure they did not play Gavutu Control. They're not going to. They're going to be going over towards Tuscan. And actually, I think that might actually come and benefit this Originals roster, because they've got some great SMGs on the team.
They sure do, right? And when you're taking a look at how, again, Sucrees Bakery played Gavutu Control twice over yesterday, didn't drop a single round, to your point. The two controls that Originals ended up playing was actually on Tuscan. So we're going to have to be able to see if any sort of resemblance of success can come through off of the very quick turnaround. Maybe they got to watch some VOD to be able to get themselves in a certain position. Big shout out to our observers, John Prosper and Waldo, from giving us ourselves a fantastic perspective of all the action that's going to be going through, Brody. But without further ado, we got to get ourselves inside this map one, baby.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one, of course. Gavutu Hardpoint, we already saw Sucrees Bakery. They did play this yesterday. As we said, they took a loss. It was the only map of which they lost. So let's get right into it to see what's going to happen here. Of course, we're going to start on board with Yako, the player, to return to this Sucrees Bakery lineup after he kind of ran away from the team, if you will, last season, went over towards war.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to see these four players end up, again, coupling along together. And there's really no favorite side of the map when you do start off here on Gavutu. It's basically a foot race to be able to see if you can win these opening engagements, which you can see on your screen. Sucrees Bakery able to come out on top. They also have a player on top, LSD, to boot.
This is still a lot of time that you don't really want to give up if you're Sucrees Bakery. They've got a few players still over here, but they are simultaneously positioning themselves for that rotation. That being said, big rotational gun battle being won by Raffi over by that boat. Still fights inside the hill, though, for this scrap time. That should, theoretically speaking, go the way of the Originals now, as Sucrees Bakery turn their attention over towards this new hardpoint. But Raffi in this power position up top on boat. How much damage can he do? Well, he doesn't really get even the chance to do much damage, to be honest. The rest of his teammates going to clear house, and now in control of the boat. This is a pretty good start from the Originals roster.
It's two different players you got to be on the lookout for. It's Furious is up top. They have that position to be able to look at this jungle walk. Nice little challenge will come through, 2 in a row now for Furious. And then you also have to keep in mind that Grad is still over by P1. So this little cross angle that you have building for the Originals is going to be an absolute blunder for Sucrees Bakery to try to roll through 5 in a row for Furious. Will at least get themselves the glide bomb while also getting the first 30 seconds on P2.
And by the way, Eric Boom just got 2 kills with the Rat from long range. That was a pretty good play coming in from him, and that's a player that we also are going to want to be highlighting further on into this series. Right now, they're keeping an eye on Grad on our screens. Has already earned this glide bomb. If you can get the second kill, the strafing run, yes, it's slightly less effective, but it would be nice to have. Unfortunately for him, he will be denied as Eric Boom comes through and takes that gunfight to his name. Now, for Sucrees Bakery here, Andy, 5 seconds left before they have to rotate away. At the Originals, they are in control of the strongest hill on the map. This is the most alike to a money hill we have to offer here on Gavutu hardpoint.
It's so hard to break. You have to have players work their way in from the back, and that's exactly what Eric is starting to look for. It was already slipped the net in the back, but the rest of their teammates and comrades have actually fallen down, but they blocked the spawns. So now all Sucrees Bakery, they're going to be spawning in the back side of that customs building. So Grad feels the pressure, has to call the glide bomb to relay the pressure back.
Good call coming in from Grad, even though it doesn't really get anything. That pressure will keep Sucrees Bakery away from the hardpoint for now, despite the fact that they are going to continue to spawn in that backline. This is a lot of time that Sucrees Bakery are letting slip out of their fingers for now. The Originals doing a stellar job at soaking all of this time up. Eric Boone, though, going to come on through, pick up 2 kills to his name. Now it is Furious, who has a glide bomb in his back pocket, ready to go. This is a solid start from the Originals. And even better now, we focus on these rotational battles. Rafi has a huge one to win. A 1v1 versus Sucree, and that will influence the spawns in the Originals' favor.
There's only 2 players over here, and they're still in possession of P3, so they're actually still going to be spawning behind the customs building. So this is a big battle still ensuing over by the radar tower. Grad and Rafi doing a great job of keeping themselves alive, just kind of finessing around on all different fronts. And there's that glide bomb that comes in from Furious. Again, very early streaks here on Gavutu is going to continuously give you a swaying decision as to how the gunfights are going to go. You get so much information. Sucrees Bakery trying to work their way in from the front. They have themselves a really good angle to be able to break in from the back, and they will be successful. This is some much-needed time coming out from Sucrees Bakery.
They need this at this point in the game, right? 30 seconds left on the clock here. This is a lot of time for Eric Boom to grab. Of course, now 1 kill away from a glide bomb. That'll be extremely helpful on maps such as Gavutu. There's a lot of open hills here to be found. Finding kills with that glide bomb. Switch away from now as he soaks up that scrap time. You want to keep him as safe as humanly possible. And actually, he gets taken down, cross-mapped away by Furious on the rotation for the Originals. They will end up giving that time away. So that's the first real significant bit of time that Sucrees Bakery have actually managed to obtain here in this map thus far. And now it comes down to these rotational battles for Sucrees Bakery. You've got to imagine at this point in the game, they really want to have an early break here to stop the Originals from getting a huge lead. But Furious is just holding these players up at the moment on this rock. Look at the kills coming through. Eric Boom able to take him on down. That should open up the lane at the very least. That's
not an easy head glitch to be able to take a battle again. So Eric Boom, nice quality shots coming out of them. It's almost what we expect out of Eric these days. But still, the initial 20 seconds are going to be coming in for the Originals. They have that leader's advantage, Brody, so they can continuously lose gunfights with about 25 seconds remaining in the hardpoint time. They can keep getting themselves set up. Grad is finessing their life on top LST ship as well, and that's going to continuously force the Originals to spawn all the way back. They have to break this hardpoint, Brody. It's about to be a 100-point lead in the Originals' favor.
This is just really well done. I think from the Originals overall, right, the rotations have been sublime. They've been winning pretty much every single one. They chose to give that scrap time consciously, and it worked out as a decision in their favor. Now, the Originals, though, they do face a bit of resistance. Sucrees Bakery, perhaps for the first time here in this game, going to win a crucial rotational battle. Now it's about holding on to it, and can you even do that? Nile and Furious going to combine for a 2 here. Just 2 players left on the point. That is going to be Super and Sucree, the AR duo for this Sucrees Bakery roster. And Sucree, the namesake for the team, will actually pick up 2 crucial gunfights.
We'll find 2 gunfights, but I mean, this is a very small step and a very long road that needs to be coming through, because at the end of the first set of hardpoints, I mean, again, it is 169 to 74, and still counting up for the Originals. 22-9 for Furious. Those early streaks that Furious as well as Rafi was able to get, you could just feel that in the back part of Sucrees Bakery, especially when you have Super, the player that we wanted to highlight first and foremost. I mean, they had a 1.42 KD overall across all 3 game modes yesterday. Definitely does not look too comfortable in this matchup so far at 5-16.
Not a great showing coming out from Super. This is the player that we kind of wanted to highlight coming into this match, and it's not looking so hot whatsoever. I think the entirety of the Sucrees Bakery roster at the moment just feeling really oppressed in this game. The Originals doing such a great job at shutting them down with that SMG pressure. And now for the Originals, can they continue that one in? Now, it is Sucrees Bakery in control of this rotation for now. Eric Boom on the docks has a couple of crucial gunfights to win, looks for the second and will not find it. But Sucrees Bakery in for this time. Once again, this is a huge moment in this game, but Grad comes through, able to pick up this gunfight. It is just a constant annoyance, especially as Grad now on a 5 killings spree. One more, it's a strafing run, but again, those glide bombs, that is enough.
Yeah, it is absolutely enough. You get the information, you can guarantee yourself that kill with the change to the perks that we got just a few days ago. And Now you're looking at this lead growing exponentially. I mean, I talked about it when they were able to come back in that matchup versus TMT for Sucrees Bakery, but the lead might just be too far gone at this point. Already over 200 points. You have to play almost perfect hardpoint going forward if you are Sucrees Bakery, which is not an easy thing to do, especially with all the cross-mapping, all the different angles that the Originals have showcased thus far.
The Originals looking even for that scrap time, and even that is something that Sucrees Bakery can't really afford to give away. And here is a position that's really horrible. The Originals have got control of the rotation 9 times out of 10 here in this game. But actually, there is a resistance player coming on through. Eric Boom trying to prove a pain in the backside for this Originals roster. He will actually pick up one gunfight, but it isn't enough to manipulate those spawns. The Originals, they have all the utility in the back pocket. That is a streak coming through from Grad, the one who he saw him just earn. The Originals in control of the power position here, just 20 seconds shy of victory. There's perhaps one more hit to come from Sucrees Bakery. Can they do this? The Originals actually putting so much emphasis on the mid-map. They have allowed Sucrees Bakery to filter through.
Yeah, they mostly were just kind of hoping that Rafi was going to be able to find the crossover by P1, and now they're able to resurface themselves over by these rocks, down by P3. Gunfights coming their way. Grad finds a nice little 2. Sucrees Bakery spawning a little bit too far out. They got to fly across the map if they want to contest this hill for the last 10.
This is it for the Sucrees Bakery roster. Grad looking to put the nail in the coffin here in game number 1. He will not be able to, but it doesn't really matter. He keeps them at bay long enough. The Originals, okay, just jumping out the hard point for the last second. I think overzealous in terms of wanting to 100 point come these guys and at least make the score lines for their own personal KDs look even more respectable. But I tell you what, that's a typical score line at the end of game number 1, 252-99. That is a dominant Gavutu showing.
I would certainly say so, Brody. I think a lot of people would end up agreeing with you, especially from the original side. If you're a fan of the Originals as a whole, as a team, or just an individual players, you're probably going to agree with that statement as well. I mean, what an electric start that they ended up having for themselves. Both Grad and Furious getting early glide bombs like that within the first set, within the first 2 hills, keep in mind you. That is something that can honestly just build such a massive snowball, and it was the success of the Originals going forward into P3, able to utilize those glide bombs, just always whittling down the reinforcements for Sucrees Bakery when they were trying to wrap around the back. We saw that even from Eric's perspective. They were able to find 1 kill, influence the spawns for their team, but even then, from the front of the hardpoint itself, the Originals just would not budge. They were holding that position continuously, and they were utilizing those streaks again. Once you go into 4, they had themselves such a massive leader's advantage that they could put themselves in a position where if they lose the fight when it comes down to scrap time, that's fine. They can chalk it. They can put themselves in the rotational favor, get themselves set up for 5, and that's exactly what they do. Always battling for the early 30, 40 seconds, and it just was a lead that just spiraled way too far out of control.
Indeed it is. Well, let's take a look at our replays for that game then to show you guys exactly what happened right from the off. It looked like Sucrees Bakery, the game kind of slipped away from them pretty much immediately, right? And we always talk about this. If you're a team, you get the majority of time off the back of P1, that P1, P2 punch on this map, it can be devastating.
Oh, it absolutely can, but what the Originals seem to do so well, what they seem to understand especially are some of those nerdy angles that we like to call it here in Call of Duty. Knowing where you can work those head glitches, knowing where you can work those crosses with the automatons. It is so potent on a map like Gavutu, and of course finding some very unique timings. We highlighted the Originals and how they have really good chemistry and how Nile kind of, rounds about these 4 players, but on a map like Gavutu, SMG presence isn't really going to be your boon of success. We saw that obviously coming through from Sucrees Bakery. Yako obviously struggling, but Nile being able to play their role to such a high degree. They were just being a nuisance up in the front, allowing the ARs to put themselves in prime position to be able to shut down a lot of the players for Sucrees Bakery as they were trying to influence themselves on the front part of the hills.
Yeah, I think that's the crazy part about this all for me, right? Again, we kind of discussed before we got into today, really what do Sucrees Bakery need to do to continue performing the way that they have been? And I think the key thing that you and I pointed out was that the AR presence, actually, for Sucrees Bakery is currently just a super strong presence at that, right? You've got Super, you've got Sucree, these 2 players that seem to work in tandem almost perfectly. And, what we kind of said was that, hey, if the Originals are able to shut that down, then they have a serious chance in this series. That is what happened. We didn't see that superstar performance that we kind of expect out of Super, especially because he was the superstar player yesterday for Sucrees Bakery, a massive proponent why they're able to do what they did for 6-1 performance in all of their maps yesterday. Just incredible play coming out of the Originals, and props to them. They win the first map in the series, and that has good connotations for the overall map set as well, right? Because now we go into the Search and Destroy, and we've already spoken about how strong the Originals roster are in that game mode.
Yeah, and just to speak against it as well, I mean, Sucrees Bakery, facing TMT and Flux Esports yesterday, although taking both the Search and Destroys, one on Berlin, one on Bokash, they went to round 11 both times, which is not something that you would honestly expect with a team with such a backbone of history with one another. Again, ex-Mavericks roster. As we take a look at the overall series layout, we can talk about the maps even further. But this team of the Originals, you have to be very, very scared of when it comes down to Search and Destroy as a whole. They 6-0'd United Nations on this exact map mode combo, on Berlin. That is a statement. Again, going back to when we were framing up the team as the Originals, they have a background of Search and Destroy. Adding Nile into the mix only makes them that much more deadlier. But the only thing to go against that, Brody, is that they did lose this map mode combo to Flux Esports 3-6. You can't really hold that too far over the heads of the Originals as a roster, because Flux Esports, if the Originals are a really good Search and Destroy team, Flux Esports are just that tad bit a little bit better.
Yeah, absolutely right. You talk about that 6-0 for the Originals. We know they are a force in Search and Destroy, but particularly on this map, this is maybe going to be a tough time here for this Sucrees Bakery roster. The Originals, we know kind of in preseason, they were one of the rosters that when teams were playing 3 Search and Destroys, at least that was in the rules. Of course, there were agreements from multiple teams to kind of play 3 hardpoints instead. They were one of the teams that was like, well, we're not going to do that, because why would we do that when it's going to kind of put us in the mud in terms of our advantage being those Search and Destroys. And, I think personally speaking, those Search and Destroys were a big reason why the Originals were able to be so successful in the preseason, in the first 4 Challengers Cups, where they have been a top 3, a top 4 team pretty consistently throughout pretty much every single Challengers Cup thus far. However, on the other hand, we do have a Sucrees Bakery roster that you can never quite count out, of course. I mean, we saw what these guys did last season in Stage 3. They entered into Challengers Elite. I think, it was the 3rd time lucky, because they failed to get into Stage 1. They failed to get into Stage number 2. And finally, with Stage number 3, they entered, and they immediately got 3rd.
Yeah, and it was at that point in time, again, where a lot of people were looking at this 4-player roster of Eric, Sucre, Super, and Yako, and they were like, I mean, that could just easily be a bottom-of-the-barrel team. They'd probably be looking at them to get relegated. But they come out of the gates absolutely swinging. They understand what it takes to be able to put their nose down to the grindstone, be able to put in the work, to be able to show those adaptations mid-season, mid-map. It's one of those things that's always going to be able to speak to the success of a lot of different players and a lot of different teams on how they will stand out in a very competitive region that is Europe. And keep in mind, that was only the 2nd map that Sucrees Bakery as a whole will lose overall so far in European Challengers Elite Stage 1 for us, Brody. And it's all on Gavutu, but got to get into this Berlin Search and Destroy, see if everything comes to light to be with how we were setting it up, as Sucrees Bakery are setting themselves up for the end.
Sucrees Bakery going to go straight towards B. They have chosen the right bomb site to go to, of course. Unfortunately for them, though, the Originals here to meet them. It's a 1-for-1 trade right out of the gate, and these Search and Destroy rounds expect them to be fast, matching the pace of Vanguard overall. But Yako, as he gets that bomb down, now trying to escape, and there is 3 Sucrees Bakery players, or the Original players, sorry, is looking at him.
Just gonna hop the defuse. This is Nile. Not gonna get challenged. You can't even really work the contest spot. Sucre's gonna find the first, has to favor towards the reload, and the defuse comes through. I mean, you said that they chose the right bomb site. I mean, we got a whole lot more information than the players that are playing the map as well, Brody. But you had 2 players that were over towards that main road. You had 1 player obviously challenging inside a mailroom. That 1-for-1 trade did come through. But the moment that Yako gets the bomb down, I was looking at Sucre's position again. They were in that contest spot, watching the entire flank to come all the way through. Once those numbers really started swaying in the Originals' favors, I mean, Yako didn't even need to throw a shoulder. They just needed to play on the backside of the docks and wait for the challenge to come to them. As we hop into this next round, Nile's going to be watching through the mid-cross. Don't know how many players they saw. Regardless, the Originals want this tram side so far. They hear some stuns coming through. We'll trade out some information. Super will take down Nile. That means the Originals are going to end up rotating all the way back towards B.
Oh, look at that timing as well. Oh, the mini-map's huge for us to see now. It's nice for us to finally cast a mini-map handy, and this is exactly why, as Super looks away momentarily, will allow the Originals to cross over towards this bomb site. A failed snipe as well coming in from Super means that this will not go down to a 4 versus 2. The numbers in Sucrees Bakery favor as they look to try and take this site. Eric Boom going to catch Furious off guard. Furious tries to dip and dive away. Now with the rat as well. Will not be getting a second kill. Super, unfortunately, is there for the trade. And this all boils down to a 3 versus 1. Rafi trying to defend this bomb. Of course, Sucre has an eagle eye on this back. Can he spot Sucre out? No, he can't. He's trying to keep an eye on that bomb, Andy, and sometimes it can give you tunnel vision.
Yeah, I completely disagree. I mean, I understand the play call, right? You know, you make a whole lot of ruckus so over inside the concourse, over by the train station, but you lost your 1 player that was over by the B site itself, but the play call, obviously, for Sucrees Bakery was to make a ruckus over at A, go for the fake, rotate over towards B off the information that was found, but the only information that was found was death, and from there on out, there's not really a whole lot more information you can go off. You know that there's a sniper over by the crane, but you don't know that there was going to be another player that's pushed all the way up towards the little dock hut that houses the B, S, and D, as they ended up getting crossed over, and it was a nice little mid-map rotation that came through from Sucre, knowing that the last player alive had to be on the backside of the warehouse just by proxy alone. Now Super finds themselves on 3 in a row, throwing up little hand signals. Sucre is going to try to hold this long game. We'll see if anybody crosses, but it's almost a rinse, wash, repeat of what we saw from the first round of Sucre's Bakery. Let's see if the execute is a little bit cleaner.
Well, this time the originals are a little bit further away, right? So Sucrees Bakery, they do have a little bit of room to breathe here in terms of getting this bomb down. Furious putting those first few shots in. It will only provide hit markers, though, unfortunately for him, as he will not get the kill just yet. But he's now going to go for it. Super, from afar, able to take him out of the equation. The originals now one man down, but they do still have pressure on the bomb site here, Andy. Rafi has pushed all the way up. Grad now looking to get this kill as well. He gets the shots in, doesn't walk away with the gunfight, decides to get the hell out of dodge, does not want to fall in this round. A 4 versus 2 might well be fatal here to them.
Yeah, if you don't find that gunfight within 2 bullets, you got to resurface yourself, put yourself in a better position to be able to then keep your life. But while all that was ensuing on the opposite side of Mail, all Sucrees Bakery have actually flipped the entire map. They've rotated inside of A. Grad will find Super inside, but that's not before Super will find 5 in a row. So the glide bomb has been accrued for Sucrees Bakery. Grad find the timing to stop this plan from coming so far, so good.
Yako gets that kill onto Grad, so it is now just Rafi in a 1 versus 2. The shots go in, but again, Rafi doesn't finish that fight. Now going to have to run away. He's surely going to get chased down by Eric Boom there, and that is so unfortunate for Rafi. He finishes that first kill, Andy. That's a realistic prospect.
Yeah, he finishes that first kill, or even finds that second kill on Yako. Either way, you got to clean up your plate. You got to enjoy the steak and the vegetables that are on the side dish as well. Everything has to be cleaned up there at the end of the day. I mean, at the same time, to my point that I was talking about, if you don't find that gunfight and a snap of a finger inside the doorway for Mail, you're probably going to be traded out. So the call immediately was to obviously keep your life, but finessing for that much longer in a 1v2, you got to be able to clean up those kills very, very quickly. There was a very realistic time to where the originals might be able to stop that plant from coming all the way through. Got to be able to come through on this offense. It's looking like another B execute, so you're just going to see the smoke pop up here over by B, but it's just going to keep the originals safe to cross inside the site.
Oh, the bomb now going down. Super deciding, well, this is the time to bring my glide bomb down. Will he be able to bring the hammer down before one of those players gets away? No! Grad actually gets inside library. That's huge in terms of streak efficiency. And the sniping play coming out now from Super. Can he get anything? Of course, elsewhere, Niall will draw first blood. Rafi, eagle eyes onto that sniper rifle. Apparently, the automaton is better in that situation. Now a 4 versus 2. Not a lot of time here to try and retake this site. Eric, not a lot to do either. He will get taken down, and that is a perfect round coming through from the originals. Yeah,
big flawless round coming through from the originals. All off of the smoke and the execute. I mean, to be honest with you, that was Sucrees Bakery taking a very forward approach as far as the defense is concerned. I mean, Super was pushed up so far with that sniper, looking at the mid-cross, almost expecting players to come through the window side. You do have a nice little angle through the middle of the map to be able to look inside of the concourse for the train station, but obviously the execute came over by B, the smoke completely cutting off that angle, and once the originals did get that bomb down, the post plant was just undeniable. Sucrees Bakery were just forced to put themselves in very awkward positions for easier gunfights. Smoke is going to come through to clear out the upper courtyard, but little to their knowing, Sucrees Bakery right around the corner.
Rafi putting those first few shots in. Will not walk away with the gunfight. Grad able to get it, though, so it's not the worst situation in the world, as they still do walk away with an advantage. But Sucrees Bakery, I mean, even though they are one man down here in this position, they technically do have control over the bomb site. They have to be careful, though, because Rafi is pushed all the way back into that backfire building. Niall also there, so Sucrees Bakery not entirely sure right now that they can get this down.
And you also have Furious. He went on a very long flank in the back, and I think just judging off the minimap alone, he actually saw Sucre move his way back inside of Mail. So Yako has to plant this bomb, wants to extend the round, wants to get themselves a win condition. But for the originals, I mean, they just have Sucre just trapped in here. Look at all of them. Just look at him on the minimap.
Sucre, there he is. Yeah, you get that sniper rifle play. Now the pressure has completely eased onto that area of the map. But Super elsewhere has picked up Rafi, so this isn't such an advantageous position anymore, but Furious spots out Yako. Yako is going to fall, and now it is a 1 versus 3. Super. All he has to do is defend this bomb site until there's 7.5 seconds left on the clock. He gets that first kill. Might get some nice timing here if he turns around onto Furious. Furious doesn't know he's there. Super puts the shots in. Now just going to have to run away if you're a Super. You have no reason to challenge this fight. Just play your life, and Furious is going to lose the 1v1.
Yeah, I mean, at that point when you come through the upper courtyard staircase, it's almost like a 50-50, right? You have to be able to read either different sides to be able to guess where Super might be located at, but it's also could be a miscommunication that came through at the same time, because when Super did find that original kill on the back podium, that first podium, I should say, from their angle, you almost would have to expect that they would end up going back towards the train side, not inside of the lobby. There's very rare chances that last player in a 1v1 will try to work their way all the way in the backside of the lobby, especially with the SMG that Super was playing with at that point in time, Brody. Would almost expect them to play that very close and finessing angle inside the concourse. Regardless, nice execute coming through from Sucrees Bakery to maintain this one-round lead.
Here we go, once again, straight towards A they go. There is resistance coming through. Super with a sniper rifle. Can he give us any snazzy shots to play with here on the cast? Well, the answer is no, at least initially. He will walk away, as will his teammate. They're giving the Originals quite a bit of real estate here inside the play. I think that might be because they're setting themselves up for a potential flank. Super lands a nice nade onto Grad. Yakko does get spotted out. He tries it, Andy, but he has been spotted.
Yakko's going to get stunned up here. So at least they will confirm that player. But look at the setup for Sucrees Bakery just to be able to retake this train station. They have all of the original strapped in here. Furious has to try to plant this bomb. Knowing there are players in the upper courtyard, the Yakko's through the flank. Should be a free kill right here. And now it's just Nile in a 1v4. Good luck, Nile.
Oh, nicely done there by that last player as Nile executed, taken out of the round. And Sucrees Bakery, Andy, you got to say, right, they played that perfectly. They pushed straight into the bomb site. And as soon as they realized what was happening, they dipped away, playing to their strengths with all of the automatons and the sniper rifle they had in play. Nicely done overall here. So far, Sucrees Bakery now in the lead here in this game, 4-2 up. This is a search and destroy they desperately needed. Of course, the Originals coming into this as the stronger search and destroy team by nature, by the way. But look at Super. He's on a 5 spree. He has a glide bomb to go.
Again, Super's been playing very aggressive angles as well with that sniper. Then goes to Sucree for the offense. So I thought it's just really cool search and destroy coming out from Sucrees Bakery. He's going to call in that glide bomb. Would love to secure this round, putting them up on map point.
That glide bomb's going to give them the room to breathe they need onto B. And this bomb will go down regardless of what happens. Raffi, the last player left up, he won't even get a sniff in as Sucrees Bakery now really starting to run away with this search and destroy.
Yeah, and again, that very cool search and destroy that I'm hinting at. Sucree is the sniper for offense, but Super is the sniper for defense. There's not many teams across all of Challengers, and heck, even all the way up to the CDL, that have teams that kind of bounce the Car 98K at this current juncture of time between two different players. It's really cool to be able to see the proactive nature and the versatility for all these players on Sucrees Bakery to be able to play different roles at different points in time. So securing that round puts Sucrees Bakery up on map point, able to at least get all of the kills in the round. Definitely a win condition within its own self. Now the Original has to brute force their way, and Furious is going to catch themselves in the middle of the map. Very unfavorable engagement. Luckily enough, Grad was right around the corner to find the trick.
Nile looking to put the advantage in the Originals' favor. You need pretty much everything you can possibly get here if you're the Originals, and that'll be something when Grad finds his way through. An annoyance for Sucrees Bakery, but one dealt with relatively quickly as Super brings out the rat for Grad. And now quickly this has become a 1 versus 2. Raffi left on his lonesome. Now, fortunately for Raffi, these players are pretty split up. If he takes one down, he's very unlikely to be traded, but surely going to get spotted out by Super. And look at that trigger discipline coming in from Super. Doesn't go for the gunfight straight away. Waits to be in a better position. Takes him out. And Sucrees Bakery, how about that for a response? They win the S&D.
Well, if I didn't have all my notes on my monitor and it was on a piece of paper, I'd probably throw them up in the air because it doesn't seem like anything matters at this point. You know, we were framing up Sucrees Bakery were definitely going to be the better hardpoint team, that the Originals were definitely going to be the better search and destroy team, again, by nature alone from what we know from these players, but you can never count on Sucrees Bakery. That is the one little pin in it, nevertheless, that you can always look at for this roster to be able to put themselves in a position that they can always adapt in a search and destroy. Again, there's so many different instances within that Berlin search and destroy, and they were looking at that maybe they were going to get blooded quite early. Again, Super was playing a very aggressive role, specifically when they did have that Car 98K defensively. But the way that they were able to preserve their life, gain information for their team, specifically for Yakko to be able to commit towards those flanks, was absolutely beautiful.
Beautiful indeed. Well, let's take a look at the replays for that map then to show you guys at home what the hell happened. Because early on, the Originals, they did actually start quite strong, right? I mean, they came out, they were trading rounds with Sucrees Bakery, but there were just a few moments here where it looked like they kind of let the rounds slip away, if you will.
Yeah, more or less. They kind of had their adaptation, or their tendencies, I should say, be read by Sucrees Bakery. There's a lot of different rounds as well. You know, there were 1 kill or 2 kills away, maybe just a bullet or 2 away, judging by the TTK here in Vanguard, that they would have been able to get themselves in a better position to be able to close out the round. It's this round right here, again, that we were highlighting, that Sucrees Bakery, again, super put themselves in a position so far forward in the upper courtyard, but they were able to preserve their life. At that point, the Originals understood that everybody was coming in towards the office side, and that allowed Yako to be able to commit towards the flank. From there on out, it was a big old snowball. Like you said, they were trading rounds back and forth. Sucrees Bakery were doing such a fine job at reading the tendencies for the Originals as they, again, not doing anything too crazy or specific, different per round to round. You know, heavy hits towards A, heavy hits towards B. The only real round that we saw a wrench in the system as far as an offense is concerned was that last and final round where you had Furious try to get through the middle of the map. They got cut down, but that was really the only difference maker as far as a round setup was concerned offensively for the Originals.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, something that really stands out to me there is looking at this Sucrees Bakery roster, and something I think we're going to be highlighting more and more on this Sucrees Bakery roster, provided we don't see any roster changes anytime soon, which, by the way, I don't think is going to happen, at least until maybe the end of stage 2, I don't think, for this roster. I think that's just how they work. Their team play is incredible. I think Sucrees Bakery, that was a massive strength when they were playing under the Mavericks brand, whether or not it was Jacko or Vickle. I think either way, the team play of Sucrees Bakery, then Mavericks, is what put them head and shoulders above a number of teams. And we saw so many examples of that. You know, there was that one round, again, where they were playing super passively. They recognized exactly what the Originals were doing, pulled themselves back as a roster, and played the map to their advantage. Really well played, I think, coming in from Sucrees Bakery. And crucially, they take the search and destroy away from the Originals. This is the moment, just like yesterday, where we kind of throw our notes out the window and say, look, I don't really know what's happening anymore. Because I think now going into this control, they will feel a little less pressure.
Maybe just a wee little bit pressure, all right? I mean, again, when you're thinking about Sucrees Bakery as a whole, when it comes down to the control maps that they played yesterday, we could take a look at the best of 5 map set here to further the discussion as well, is that when they played the controls yesterday, it was all Gavutu. They didn't drop a single round on that map mode combo of control. Obviously, they felt very comfortable to be able to sway that decision and to be able to win it so decisively. Winning an offensive round alone in control for Vanguard is very difficult to do. To do it on Gavutu when you have very powerful SMGs backed by ARs seems to be the recipe for success, especially when it comes down to the Sucrees Bakery roster. But here's the thing. We're going to a Tuscan control here, Brody. And this is not a map mode that we have seen Sucrees Bakery play on, I believe, even since the qualifier, if we did at all, specifically you and me, or the whole world to see. Tuscan, though, for the Originals, they played this twice yesterday. It went to round 5 both times. No one was surprised. But they won it one time, only lost it the other.
Right, and this is the key thing, I think, you know, the round 5, as you kind of hint towards there, that's kind of neither here nor there. I think, you know, round number 5, yeah. We will say, unless something drastic happens, like we have seen some clutch moments again yesterday in challenges, unless something drastic happens, this will very likely go to round 5, just given the nature of Tuscan Control. It is a very, very linear map. You could probably put quite a lot of money on how these rounds will go. Your offense, you're going to grab A first. You will more likely than not get it without much stress at all. And then it's that fight for B that is horrendous for the offense because it's so deep set into the defensive spawn, right? It's really tough to take. You have to pull yourselves together as a team. That said, I do believe Sucrees Bakery, they have the ability to do that. I mean, heck, there's a reason why they were able to 3-0 both teams they played yesterday on Gavutu control. But, I mean, here is the but. Tuscan plays, even though they're kind of both similar in the way that they are defensively sided, it plays very differently. It is a lot more linear, and maybe that will favor the Originals here in this particular engagement.
It's tough to be able to gauge, though, right? Because, I mean, when it comes down to it, I mean, you say that, you know, you should be able to take A within the opening engagement. That's also given that you obviously win all the gunfights that come your way, and you can get those 3 ticks of progress, extending the clock by 60 seconds. But when it comes down to that B zone and the entirety of the south side of Tuscan map as a whole, all the way up to the CDL at the kickoff tournament, we were seeing a lot of teams take these adaptations. The team that was more versatile and could adapt to the roles that need to be played, mostly looking at the flex players for these two teams to be able to pull out that third submachine gun. Heck, even the main AR could also pull out a submachine gun. It has a pretty decent range, let's be honest here, to be able to then break all the way through maps, get that top patio control, get your way in the backside of the church because there's a lot of good head glitches over there. to be able to completely berate and keep the defensive team to whittle down that alleyway leading in towards the well. It's going to come down to, again, to my point, the flexes of these two teams. Who's going to be able to influence that A zone, the middle of the map with the automaton, or who's going to get mixy with the SMG lineup to be able to cause a ruckus on the front line of the defensive teams?
Well, you know, I think you bring up a really interesting point there, right? Because, of course, Tuscan is a very close quarter combat map, right? You are going to see a lot of SMG play coming out here. And as you rightly say, the flex players are the ones that are going to be super important. But also, you know, we do have to talk about Sucrees Bakery here momentarily, because, again, if you do cast your mind back to the Black Ops Cold War season, one of the talking points that we brought up time and time again when they were playing under the Mavericks roster was the fact that they had incredible SMG pressure. Back then, it was Eric Boom, it was Vikal. Of course, Yakko did play with them in stage number 3, and I think the same can still be said for that Yakko and Eric Boom duo. That is going to be a threat that the Originals will have to shut down here as we drop into Tuscan for control. This is going to be the swing map in the series. I lied, by the way, we're not dropping into it just yet. We'll jump into it, I promise, very, very soon. Casters will start the game, don't you worry about it. I've got a button, guys, ready to go.
That being said, button hostage right now. Yeah. We're just trying to get you excited for it is all.
Yeah, I would never do that, actually. I'm not mean enough. That's not in my nature, Andy. You know me. That being said, that is what I'm looking for the Originals. Don't be mean, come on, man. That is what the Originals are looking for here. They need to shut those players down, and hey, if they do that, I think they will have an okay time of things here on Tuscan. But either way, I am really excited to get into this one because, again, this is the swing game. I think this is a really important map in the series. Yeah,
and it's going to frame up the rest of the best of 5 as well. You know, when we were taking a look at the series as a whole, we are guaranteed that Berlin hardpoint, and that's going to be quite telling, especially because you get some of the nuances from Gavutu, the long rotations, the AR presence, the cross angles that were the absolute success coming out from Furious during that Gavutu hardpoint for the Originals. But then you also have the split-second decision-making. Are we hitting for scrap time? Are we breaking from the front? You can also get a lot of presence of mind with the SMGs, something that you don't get out of the Gavutu hardpoint as well. So yeah, this Tuscan control for me is going to be quite telling for how the rest of the series is going to frame itself up as a whole, Brody, given the fact, again, this is an SMG's playground. You're going to feel right at home if you love to be able to play those ratty corners, find yourself some very unique timings, because let's be candid here, you have a lot of alleyways and a lot of different unique fixtures on the map that you can course into your favor as an SMG player, let's just say it that way. In Tuscan control as a whole, again, you know, if you walk away with this as decisive as they have in the past for Sucrees Bakery, I mean, that can honestly just be the end-all, be-all, because going into the Berlin hardpoint, again, for them as a team, you know, they only played it once yesterday. It was against TMT. They were able to win it, again, as we take a look at Sucrees' team, yet again, to be able to give you some further information on how beautiful this team can honestly be.
Yeah, of course, and, you know, we go down the roster here. Of course, that is the team. Eric Boom, Sucrees, Super, and Yakko. If you did watch any of last season, you'll know them as the ex-Mavericks team now, you know, currently placing first in our overall standings after a brilliant 2-0 start. They won both of their matches yesterday versus TMT and Flux Esports. But, you know, they've had an interesting season thus far, I think, right? You know, looking at the Sucrees Bakery roster, Eric Boom has only just joined the roster. He was previously playing with the Ponder Replay team. But, you know, this team, they've gone through a multitude of different force, right? Whether or not it was Rencor, it was Fusion, it was Invidian. None of them quite were the answer, I think, that this team was particularly looking for. It hasn't been the kindest of pre-seasons for this roster. But honestly, I think that just goes to prove the point here that now that Eric Boom is with the team, they will take a little bit of time, I think, to get everything perfect as a roster. You know, they still have a few kinks to iron out in this team. But when that happens, just like the 2021 season, they will be a threat.
Yeah, right. I mean, you start the whole entire Vanguard season, you go through 2 different fours, and it just basically kind of throws a wrench into that overall chemistry that we've been trying to get ourselves in the same limelight that we know that this ex-Mavericks roster, now known as the Sucrees Bakery roster, can obviously bring to the table. Once they find that chemistry, once they get that pep in their step, Brody, you bring yourself back to Cold War, specifically on Raid for all 3 maps. I mean, they were flowing like water. It was kind of gross what they were looking like at the end of it all before Yakko, of course, did end up moving over towards that war roster. So let's go ahead and give it a second try. It is now Tuscan control between these two teams, the Originals versus Sucrees Bakery. Big swing map mode combo coming your way.
Just a quick coming into this match. Apologies, guys. I'm a bit of a silly person sometimes, but we're getting back into this one. You know, Andy, we kind of expect the Originals to take this right up the gate, but of course we have seen teams defend this point really well sometimes.
Yeah, it really comes down to the automatons to be able to resurface themselves, play against a lot of those different half walls that you have at your disposal, what the planters box are, but the originals got a lot of presence coming their way. Already 2 ticks of progress to speak of over at A.
And there is a bit of resistance coming on through, though. Eric Boom actually gets a huge 2-piece here. Can Raffi put a stop to it? Yes, he can. Raffi now should be able to cause some problems and maybe capture the rest of this zone. But on the other hand, we actually have a player that's slipped the defensive line. That is going to be Furious. He's a real problem that Sucrees Bakery are going to have to deal with. And I don't think they're dealing with him at the moment. Furious still staying alive somehow. This is 3 in a row for this man anymore. He is inching close towards that glide bomb.
And what did I say about the flex players? You got to be watching out for them. And Furious is that guy. Was able to do with the automaton there on Gavutu. Now doing it here with the MP40 on Tuscan, causing a lot of ruckus. Distress. It's only a 2-life lead. Supers got themselves a nice little angle mid-map. We'll start cutting down the reinforcements. And off-screen, Sucrees Bakery dealing with the players inside of maps quite wonderful.
Sucrees Bakery now looking to try and defend at this point. Of course, they're doing a stellar job of it. This is a nice wave of kills coming on through right now. They've given themselves a 3-life advantage. And now, I think all of the point when teams start to really apply the pressure, it's a problem that the originals are going to have to deal with. Eric Boom playing Grad and Nile for a moment there. That will just hold them off. But still, Andy, sometimes it does feel like a very long time here. There is still 80 seconds on the clock that the originals have to play with.
Yeah, and if you're new to Control, if you're new to Call of Duty as a whole, I will let you know there's a multiple of win conditions that you have in your favor, both defense and offensive. Like, obviously, the offense want to go for that zone control, start working up some of those ticks. That's how the clock does end up stopping, but you'll see the lives remaining underneath that control tax. That is another win condition for both these two teams to be able to rely on. Currently, Sucrees Bakery having that multi-life lead over top of the originals' head. The game clock could be another immediate consideration, but Sucrees Bakery just holding the line. It's the originals that need to play these gunfights rather smart, if you ask me, to be able to break past this front line that Super's trying to hold.
Super just in his position. There is the strafing run being earned. Looking for number 7. Won't find it. That's nice from Furious and Grad to come back together here to take him out of the equation. But you got to feel like this may be damage done at this point in time. There is a 13 to 8 life advantage. Just 30 seconds left on the clock. But actually the originals here surging through. They win a couple of gunfights in their favor. Sucrees Bakery might be feeling the pressure. Something has to give. Furious, can he be the one to do it? Unfortunately not. There are still players in close proximity, but as Eric Boom takes down Raffi, it is just the 2 players. And with 13 seconds on the clock, nobody is going to come to help. The garrison will not arrive on time at this point. Nile, what can he do? There is just 5 seconds. Has to go huge, and he will actually stop the clock.
He's going to stop the clock, but the second that he steps his toes onto that zone, he's going to get absolutely rock bottom through the cobblestone floor. So it's just one of those things, again, that when you get yourself that A zone, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have a easier advantage to get yourself in the back. Even though Furious was going crazy inside the church, keeping all of Sucrees Bakery at bay from getting the middle of the map, it just takes that one gunfight defensively for Sucrees Bakery. Then they're able to push that front line further forward. You have players finding angles and flanks over by Vines, over by the fire alleyway. And then you obviously had Super, who is fully streaked out of their mind, that was just holding that angle inside of maps as well. So now Sucrees Bakery for the offense. Super will find that first blood. Again, has streaks to play with if they are feeling the necessity for them. But the gunfight's going their way so far. No kills to speak of so far out of the original side. A lot of presence through the map. Do Sucrees Bakery have?
Well, this is a pretty good start from Sucrees Bakery. They win the first wave of gunfights, and now the originals kind of face a question of how many more resources they really want to pour into this point before they give it up. And I think the decision for now might well be, let's just reposition to try and defend B. That decision has now been made. Of course, in Sucrees Bakery, you can see them. They realize it. The originals, they have repositioned here, Andy.
Reposition themselves. I mean, this is also a very smart call for the originals. Again, it is 5 kills to now the 2. Now that Grad takes down Sucre, you have to chalk the A zone at that point. You don't want to be giving up more lives. You don't want to be giving up an opportunity for Sucrees Bakery to be able to work your way and find sufficient amount of kills to then sway or to consistently move across the map and get their way inside of the B zone. Nice little gunfight on the backside of Raffi. If you're Sucrees Bakery, you know that this is the power position of the whole. Dealing with those 2 players wonderfully is going to completely reset the map, knowing that Sucrees Bakery have to reset coming back through mid.
Sucrees Bakery are kind of playing the pace of this game at the moment, winning all of these gunfights over towards Top Church. Furious gets turned on there. Nicely done from Yakko to make that gunfight happen in his favor. But that one kill from Furious will slow up this play to a snail's pace. That's a nice name from Eric Boom, though. How much more damage can Eric Boom do? Well, there is the question. And here is actually an answer to a question I was going to be asking going forward. With these streaks, how offensively do you want to use them? We did just see one of those streaks coming out from Super, but it will all amount to naught as nobody was around to capitalize on it.
Yeah, and the immediate consideration for streaks, and you even go back to Black Ops 4 when specialists were even in the conversation, right? If it continues to go defense for defense, those types of resources you almost want to hold for a round 5 defense or offensive side. If things get really hairy, then you have that resource in your back pocket to use to get yourself back in the favor. Sucrees Bakery, they still have this 5-kill lead for us, Brody, and they could absolutely still win it out if they play these gunfights smart and they're able to close them out decisively. They can win it off with lives remaining alone.
Sucrees Bakery still have presence over here. Let that be known. Eric Boom and Super. Still looking to cause problems, but you have Nile in the mid-map looking to cut off Sucree and Yakko before they get anywhere near the point. Unfortunately for Nile, they'll take a different route here, and Eric Boom has actually pushed forward. That second kill would be huge. He has denied it. Grad wins that fight, but the trade's going in favor of Sucrees Bakery. They can do this. They just need to get players onto this point to stop the clock because there is only 24 seconds left. Here comes Nile from the front to deal with the pressure and deal it with it. He would. He will win those gunfights.
Absolutely close it out. 15 seconds now remaining for Sucrees Bakery to try to close this out. They still have a pretty big life lead. Furious to see Yakko yeet themselves over top. Has some booming shots to be able to help out Nile get that kill, but still, the pressure still remains. Sucrees Bakery will spawn out. They got to fly to be able to touch the zone. Furious is going to cut them down on the ladder. The only player that might be able to do anything is Super, and they can't drop down in time. No weighted boots on this individual. Can't drop down a little bit faster. We'll go defense for defense, but the conversation still remains. When it comes down to round 5, this is very different than what we had in Cold War, Brody. It's not tick progression that matters to be able to get yourself that round 5 defense. It's going to come down to the kills. And back-to-back rounds, Sucrees Bakery were able to have a life advantage over the originals so far. It's going to have to be a decisive round for the originals if they want to hope to be able to get that defensive round if it keeps going defense for defense.
Indeed, well, 1-on-1 we go. Of course, as you say, this is defense to defense. It's pretty standard when it comes to Tuscan control. Can the originals now break the mold as they get another shot at an offensive victory? Furious through the mid-map, a bit of a unique push through. He will pick up 1 kill and keep Sucrees Bakery at bay for now. But keep an eye on number 8 on the mini-map. That's going to be Eric Boom trying to make a flank happen to put a stop to the originals early on in this one. He's only able to get 1 kill, though. It's going to have to be Yakko on the point now to put a stop to this one. And actually, he does end up with that first gunfight. It's all of these individual kills at the moment, Andy. It's just annoying for the originals.
It really is, too, because with all these individual gunfights that are coming through, nothing convincing to speak of. This is forcing the originals now to split their call. You can see Rafi on the minimap is actually trying to stop that clock over at B, while the rest of the reinforcements are trying to work their way all the way through. Sucree's going to be that player over here. Rafi's going to cut them down as soon as Sucrees tries to resurface himself inside of radio. They know that there's going to be a player back here, but this is a nice gut check call coming out from the originals. Cause the stress over at B. Try to get some map control while you're at it.
Furious, causing all sorts of problems. This is how annoying he was in hardpoint. This is how annoying, once again, he is going to be in control. Just pretty much in any respawn game mode, to be honest with you. But, I mean, while all this is going on, Nile will be capturing 1 point over towards B. He will need to get a couple of kills to do it, though, of course, because Eric Boom now coming in from behind. It is now 1v1 on this point as Rafi wins 2 gunfights over towards A. The originals happy to just try and take that. Grad will finally be taken down over towards B. But this is a pretty good state of affairs at the moment for the originals.
Yeah, again, this is all off of the distress that was caused over by B. That forced all of Sucrees Bakery to then collect themselves on the backside of Church, wait for the respawns, clear out the B zone. They want to make sure that that's the zone. If they lose any one of them, it should be A first. And that's exactly what comes through the originals. Able to capture the A zone, only behind 2 lives, but adding 60 seconds on the board.
They got a whole 90 seconds now to get 2 ticks of progression on B. I make that sound really easy, Andy, don't I? It really
it's
isn't,
not.
Sucree. Oh, goodness me, Sucree. That's a nice wave of kills from him. And look how far Sucree's pushed up now.
Yeah, and you know that if you're the originals, you have to deal with them, and, well, they try to deal with them at the forefront. Grad doesn't seem like they actually know where they are, and, well, off-screen will end up taking them down. But Sucree caused a lot of damage. Now it's Super's turn to be able to pick up that angle. It's now picking up the roof side, exactly where their teammate left off, and the originals not going to really give them any sort of light of day. Super's going to try to read this, get some information, throwing a shoulder, switches to the automaton, trying to decide what gun they want to be able to take this gunfight with. But all of this time, Super is just finessing their life. Even if they don't find a kill right there, that was a solid 7 seconds off the clock. That is valuable time that the originals need, especially because they're down at lives. They're trying to get themselves on the zone.
finally made it past the rooftop, right? The guard has been taken out not once but twice. And now what do they get for reward? Another set of gunfights versus Sucrees Bakery. Furious up top. What can he do? Well, not very much, as the original is being brought down to their final 4 lives here with just 20 seconds on the clock. This is looking like an increasingly negative prospect for this originals roster. And at this point, I think you might want to just kind of preserve lives. Don't give up any more to Sucrees Bakery.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, you just don't want to be feeding more streaks. And keep in mind, Sucrees Bakery still have a 2 resources in their back pocket that they could use if they're feeling the necessity to do so. We love that reservation coming out, just trying to fish out these last few kills. Go's actually got a deep kill, Eric Boom. Grad kind of forced that one out now, didn't they? But still, that was a fantastic defense as a whole coming through from Sucrees Bakery. That is just clinical control. Recognizing that they were trying to cause ruckus over at B, they end up, going for the bait. They end up eating the entire meal while they're at it, dealing with all the players for the originals over at B, continuously holding on to that life advantage. They completely conceded the A zone, and from there on out, they continuously snuffed out the advantages that they had, pushing players over through maps, 2 players over towards rooftops, always keeping the originals offset as far as numbers. It had to come down to individual heroics, of which the originals could not amount to. So now Sucrees Bakery for their offense, off the rip. You can already see on the minimap, Eric Boom is already kind of flying into their base, and that's going to allow the Sucrees Bakery roster to be able to get themselves on A and get some uncontested picks.
And you have, once again, Furious trying to make that flank happen that Eric Boom did in that prior round. If you kind of remember it, it doesn't work out this time for him. Brad, able to win 1, turns around for the second. He has denied it as Sucrees Bakery, trying once again to get hold of this point. It is Eric Boom next up to bat, and he is going to be really the first person that the originals have any contact with in this play. Elsewhere, Niall causing some problems in the mid-map, but Eric Boom, still this problem for the originals. He is a good enough distraction. Those players trying to deal with him, they don't realize that Super and Yaka are also there, and well, finally going to take the point are Sucrees Bakery.
And they deal with Furious in the backline over by Vines. So now entirety of the middle of the map is Sucrees Bakery's control. And you also have players trying to mount a push over towards that church side. You also have to keep in mind that Niall's in a godlike position on the backside of that cubby. Got to be able to watch the entirety of the backside of church, making sure that no players from Sucrees Bakery can get back there scot-free.
That was a really nasty kill, by the way, from Niall. Just turns on him. Technically speaking, he did have a better weapon in that position. Of course, the Automaton should win gunfights versus the MP40, but, you know, obviously we know how nasty the MP40 can be, so that's a whole other conversation. Regardless, I think the baseline at the moment is that the originals do have control over B. The question is for how long. Niall's attempt to flank is denied coming in from Yako, so now Yako waiting over Sucree. Got Super over in the church also. This is a good team hit being put together here by Sucrees Bakery. Now all about the execution. Can they get this done? Yako gonna make his way through the cut. Got another player on the point as well, Eric Boom. That's going to be the star SMG player. He, unfortunately, is going to be taken down. Yako, can he get any kills, though? Sucrees Bakery does actually get 1 here. That's going to be the namesake doing exactly that. But again, the trades will fall in favor of the originals. And every single time these kills come through as well, by the way, Andy, they have to reset because you basically need all 4 players to assault the point.
Oh, absolutely. You need players to be able to find value coming through the church side. You need players to find value coming through the ramp. And as you're trying to work your way through the patio, Rothby's going to be right here to lock down the angle. 17 and 22, sure. But those 2 kills are crucial to the success of the originals on this defense. Now, what seemingly feels like the first time in every single control round so far, the originals, although marginal, do have a life lead.
Indeed they do, but I feel that's probably not going to really matter in the grand scheme of things, considering there's only 35 seconds left on the clock. You have to think this will more likely than not will come down to time or capture, and maybe it'll be the latter as Yako now on this point has the support of Super with him. The kills now coming through for Sucrees Bakery. This is as good as an opportunity as they're gonna get. Can they close it out here in round number 4? Yako, big gunfight to lose there as Rafi comes out on top. Still though, presence over here for Sucrees Bakery. Time dwindling down. 25 seconds and Super needs to do something here in the play. Can he pick up these gunfights? Can he waste enough time? That is the question.
That's the question. 15 seconds remaining. Super, for all the originals, they know that Super's still up here somewhere. It's throwing a lot of shots, but it's actually causing a lot of damage to the middle of the map. Sucrees Bakery trying to push themselves back over, and Eric Boom finds 2 on the bounce, able to put themselves on the B zone, trying to stop this clock continuously.
There's only 6 seconds though. That's in the play. Niles gets taken down. Super going to be responsible for that. Can Rafi pick up 2? No! It's going to be Sucree still playing his life now. Just 3 seconds. He needs to jump on the point. Will do so, but there are so many angles he has to defend from. Just too many directions to look. And the originals, that right there, Andy, that's a sigh of relief for the originals. They will survive a brush with death.
It's a sigh of relief, and they will have a little brush with death nevertheless, Brody, because the life's advantage for the previous few rounds are not going to be favorable for the Originals. They have to win an offensive round coming forward, and they gave themselves a handful of good looks in the previous offenses, but they never really had an opportunity to get a multitude of players over by that B zone. That has to be immediately corrected coming into this offense. If they want to take the swing map mode combo, the damage has been done. We knew that Tuscan control as a whole would probably end up coming down to a round 5 between these two teams, as it so typically does, but the Originals have to really dig deep here to close out this round. And I love this gut check call, trying to work their way over towards the B zone, but hey, Eric Boom, they're that Guardian over by the patio. You line up, you hold hands, he'll find 3.
Well, hey, sometimes you need to make the Hail Mary plays to win the rounds. And, well, although the push doesn't really do anything at all, they don't really lose anything at the same time. What they lose, 30 seconds overall in this game before now they have to go towards A. Of course, though, Andy, as we always say, there's always risk associated with these plays. Will it go down to an unfortunate bit of play? I don't think so for now. Rafi and Grad going to come out, win a couple of gunfights. They still have pressure coming through, though. Eric Boone manages to make his way through you. How much damage can he do? Well, not a lot. Only one gunfight to his name before he is traded out, but it will leave Rafi and Niall all alone on the point.
Second tick of progress looking to be contested here for Sucrees Bakery. The gunfights all come their way, and they gave themselves a real good look at the Originals. They dealt with Yako on the flank. You said that it didn't really give Sucrees Bakery much more of anything besides maybe just a little bit of a time advantage, but if Yako continues to pressure out the flank, that would have came up a lot flatter than what it looked like. They only have that one tick of progress to speak of. 38 seconds remaining. It is a hefty life advantage for Sucrees Bakery.
Look at this Hail Mary play now coming out once again from the Originals. The call will surely be made there towards Fury. Furious took a very long time to try and turn around. I'm kind of wondering whether or not that call was a bit of a late one coming through from Grad, who was with him. But regardless, now progress being made at B. This is what the Originals needed. They needed to kind of distract Sucrees Bakery away so they could have some space to capture A. Because let's be honest, capturing B is a bit of an unrealistic prospect. But Grad still has a 1v1 over here that he wants to win. He will. A secondary progression maybe on the table here for B. But Grad gets beamed by Sucree. And now the Originals default towards capturing A once again.
Yeah, it caused distress over by B, trying to get the A zone captured. This is exactly what they did in their last offense. Rafi is in a position to deal with players trying to contest this for Sucrees Bakery, and if you're Sucrees Bakery, you're losing a lot of lives now. So you go back to that last offense that the Originals had for themselves. Sucrees Bakery are going to completely concede that A zone. Know that there's going to be another 60 seconds on the board, but a life advantage, no less.
Now for Rafi and Grad, this is going to slow up quite significantly. They want to assault this backline, do it together. There's a whole hard heady that you got to try and take out in the process. Super will eventually fall, but not before taking out one of the Originals players. Now Niall going to walk out onto the patio. Yako takes him down for a second as well. Nicely done from Yako. And for Sucrees Bakery here, they are feeling pretty confident. You got to imagine a 9 versus 4 here, Andy.
Yep, basically to play this like search and destroy versus an extra set of respawns and one more if you are the Originals, but
oh, no.
You know, teammates, and not too sure what ended up happening there. Furious putting on his martyr suit. It looked like taking out himself and a teammate. So yeah, very not hype end there towards the control rounds. But again, you know, you said that sometimes you got to go for broke if you are the Originals in that final play. I respected the call, but it was not the right call, Brody. You'll see a lot of teams try to work their way over towards that B zone if they win the first initial defense to try to go for broke, knowing that it typically, especially on Tuscan, does go defense for defense. And that final moment right there for a final offense, trying to go for the Hail Mary call to go for the more difficult zone to be able to take, I'm not necessarily a fan of that call as a whole. You got to be able to get yourself that 60 seconds at all costs, because for every single time that the Originals were on offense, they just weren't winning a lot of their ahead gunfights, those isolated 1v1s, being able to walk away, getting 1v2s, finding themselves favorable trades, being able to get that numbers advantage was never their stat line, if you will, even all the way until the very end. They only found themselves one favored life advantage, and that was when they were on defense, and it was only by maybe like 2 or 3.
Yeah, for sure. Let's take a look then at our replays for this one as we move forward. Of course, it was a game number 5. We're not really shocked that it was a round number 5. I think that's the bottom line here with Tuscan controllers, that we kind of expect it to be a round number 5 at this point whenever we go into a Tuscan. Again, that is just the very nature of the map, and surprise, surprise, as defensively sided as it was the defense that won out pretty much every single time. Although this was a significant round for me. Sucrees Bakery, they put on a ton of pressure. They pushed all the way up towards rooftops, and I actually feel like even though we did see trade dominating in the defenses. Sucrees Bakery, they looked more comfortable ultimately overall on that defense.
Yeah, and can't really be surprised by that factor alone. Again, these are the first 2 rounds that Sucrees Bakery have actually lost all Elite Season 1 so far, Brody, and that does speak volumes to what this team looked like as the core 4. Again, that ex-Mavericks roster before Yako moved over towards Team War and they picked up Vickle. The same thing still resided for themselves. They understand respawn at a fine level. They understand control at a fine tune, given that they understand what each individual kill means. If they're not getting pressured out over by maps defensively, why wouldn't you try to take the map away? Even furthermore, all the way into the spawn of the originals. It kind of brings yourself back again. You know, I'm going to sound like a broken record every single time I'm casting Control, always referencing Black Ops 4, but it gives me frequency vibes, the way that Sucrees Bakery does play Control as a whole, that they get those handful of kills, and then they just try to fly into the enemy spawn. Sometimes it comes up flat. Yeah, Yako got dealt with on the flank a handful of times, but that one round really did speak volumes. As soon as Sucree did go down, then you ended up having Eric Boom pick up the slack, becoming that guardian of the rooftops that you called them as well. If they weren't finding all the kills in the world, what they were doing so wonderfully is just exhausting that clock.
Yeah, absolutely. I gotta say that rooftop play was brilliant, and I expect more teams to do that. I think more and more into this season, because of course you just manipulate the spawns so well, because they spawn much further out, right? Instead of spawning maybe over towards the rooftops, they have a shorter run to get into the command center and such. Being on that rooftops manipulates spawns beautifully. So 2-1 up now are Sucrees Bakery. We're not wasting any time though here, Andy. We're not going back to our map set. No, not at all. We're going back to the streets of Berlin here for hardpoint. Of course, Sucrees Bakery looking to close the series out here.
First hardpoint that we played here between these 2 teams, it was a 100-point club for the originals over Sucrees Bakery, 250-99. But Berlin hardpoint as a whole, this one is definitely going to speak to a little bit more success when it comes down to Sucrees Bakery. They lost this one. They only lost this one hardpoint yesterday, Brody, and when they were playing Berlin hardpoint versus TMT, they won 250-222. This opening rip, definitely nice to see it be recontested from the originals, especially from that side of the map as a whole. Sucrees Bakery, though, they're going to feel comfortable with that. They're going to be looking towards the middle of the map to set themselves up for P2.
They are Nile trying to make his way through the mid-map here. A couple of rotational gunfights to be won. Gonna have to switch to the rat pistol to do it, and instead Sucree doesn't even need a weapon. He just slaps him down with his own fist. Nice rotational gunfights coming out from Sucrees Bakery here. This is time they really don't want to give away to the originals. If they can get a full 60 here, what a solid start this would be. But now for Sucree on our screens, how much damage can he do? He's running about, finding all kinds of routes at the moment, but nobody inside the hardpoint.
Nobody inside the hardpoint at all, but I mean, if it's so close like this, especially through the first 2 kills that are being played, you can see what it means for Sucree. He's on a 4. Now, one more kill, he's going to be able to get a glide bomb. And that would quite literally put the shoe on the other foot. What it was the success for the originals going back to that Gavutu, it was early streaks, both from Furious and Grad. That is a non-benefactor, but what they do so well is that they resurface themselves, get themselves inside the hard point, and all of that contested time right down to the scrap. The originals will set themselves up while also trying to look towards near.
They will grab, still looking for these rotational gun, or still looking towards the scrap gunfight, sorry. That's 10 seconds that will be going towards Sucrees Bakery. Now, this is a very odd hard point. I think, generally speaking, you always want to fight for those spawns, but you can, technically speaking, also fighting it from the front. Sucrees Bakery making a decision as to how they kind of want to approach this. They do have Jacko over towards the patio side. Niall, though, on the docks. That's a problem on the main street that I don't think Sucrees Bakery have quite dealt with yet. But is Eric Boom able to win one gunfight? He is the only player at the moment in a position to do anything. He actually wins 2. And now for this approach into the hardpoint here, Sucrees Bakery, they have a real chance, especially as these kills keep on coming through. Where do the originals spawn now? Of course, still in that backline, and Grad and Raffi combined for 4.
Yeah, that kill came through so fast on Eric that when you're holding your kill cam like that for the originals, you're still going to be able to hold on to those crane spawns. Just a few meters, I would say, were Sucrees Bakery from putting themselves in a position to block those crane spawns. But this is a very realistic hardpoint to try to hold from the front. But to the originals and their value of what they've been able to do, they never got broken inside the lobby. Now Niall finds themselves on 2, 8, and 5 for them. Going to be able to soak up the last little bit of the scrap time. Sucrees Bakery down by a 50-point margin. Need to have a strong setup at 4 to be able to cut down the lead that the originals have.
We look over towards this rotation. Sucrees Bakery, they are the ones that are here once again. And they hold on to this. That's going to be the question. The route that Grad has found. It's all for naught, though, as he does get shut down by Super. A good eye from this man to make sure that nobody comes in on the flank. The first wave of kills will be going the way of Sucrees Bakery also, but that's an important kill coming through the originals. They now maybe have a path to make their way to that docks backline.
Yeah, but you know that Super's still going to be spawning in the back of the warehouse. He can get himself in that same exact position. So can Sucree and any AR really to speak of. But again, much like 3, what I was talking about, 4 can absolutely definitely be held from the front. It helps out when Niall is going on a little bit of a tear. Finally gets dealt with, but the rest of the teammates here for the Originals are right behind them to be able to deal with all of Sucrees Bakery on the hardpoint itself. That is a quality break. It's down to scrap time, but that's more annoying for Sucrees Bakery than it is anything. They're the ones that need the time.
Yeah, they couldn't really afford to give it that time. Regardless, though, they're now going to be focusing on the rotation once more. This will be the hardest hill to hold here on Berlin, especially since Niall has streaks to use if they do get too much time off the back of it, although I highly doubt they will use it in this particular position. The Originals haven't got anybody in just yet. Sucrees Bakery haven't got anybody in just yet. Eric Boom, Guardian on the stairs. Can he stop these players from making their way up towards the third story of the building? Well, he does get the first kill, looking for the second. Furious now in that power position. That's a big kill for him to pick up.
P5 is easily the most mixy hardpoint that we have here in Berlin. Not exactly an easy one to be able to garner a lot of time, not unless you're on the side that Sucrees Bakery have, and you're able to keep the entire enemy team spawn trapped over by Warehouse. So you're mostly just looking to keep the enemy team of the Originals off the hardpoint, try to keep this lead rather diminished. Well, explosive barrel play, they can see that for a grab, but Sucrees going to be able to pick up the kill no less as we start setting ourselves up for a second set of rotations. Still 10 seconds remaining inside P5, and so long as Sucrees Bakery keep on slaying out, they can get themselves inside this time to be able to get themselves a few seconds here and there, but it's mostly about setting up for the office. P1 inside the second set hills can absolutely become a money hill if you set it up properly.
Indeed it can. It's a money hill that Sucrees Bakery will need here. I mean, what, they're down by 30 points now. They don't really want to be down by any more, but Rafi opens up with two very important gunfights for the rotation. Gunfights on the hardpoint being one as well. So the Originals in a great spot to extend their advantage here, particularly, especially as now streak potentially being earned once again. Niall is 1 kill away from lapping over his glide bomb. He's going to get it. What a game this man is having.
18-8. Just a casual double positive game on another spree is Niall. This is why we highlighted this kid coming into this core three of Rafi, Brad, and Furious. It just makes this team a force to be reckoned with, especially on hardpoint. It's not just Gavutu. They are out-rotating. They are winning the gunfights. They are calling Sucrees Bakery's bluff on every single turn so far within every single hill that we've played so far. The break inside one was sublime, and now you got yourself quite the hefty lead going into P2. Sucrees Bakery will be set up once again, but you already have Niall that's trying to slip the net. Nobody knows that he's over here.
Niall in from behind. How much damage can he do? You've got to imagine that someone from Sucrees Bakery, as soon as they spawn up, will sniff it out. Niall throws the stun in. Eric Boom not ready for this fight. How much more damage can Niall do? Somebody up from top from the banister takes him out of the equation. Now more damage to be done for Yaka, but if anything, Niall disrupts the perfect harmony that Sucrees Bakery had kind of set up here as they look to get over the 100-point marker in this game. This is not really time they can afford to give away.
No, it's really not. The back 30 seconds as well. They're actually reading the spawns fully. Off of Niall's push, the spawns did get flipped. You had a player towards the middle of the map for Sucrees Bakery, so this is a very good read if you are a Sucrees Bakery fan. Niall's going to resurface himself inside the hardpoint. Will win the battle for the scrap time. The 60-point lead that the Originals have over top of their heads will be felt even more so by Sucrees Bakery, especially as Niall calls in the glide.
I won't do anything. It will just pressure these players to get inside, but the information gained is probably more powerful than anything you could possibly get from the back of that glide bomb. Furious trying to make his way onto the dock side. It was a bit of a foolhardy push considering it was all on his lonesome, but it won't be all for naught here. I mean, the Originals do have quite a safety net here in this game with that 80-point advantage. Eric Boom able to win that first gunfight against a player pushing individually through. And I don't want to see this Originals roster start pushing individually. I mean, that is not what we want to see out of this team. They are good when they play as a team.
Single file lines are only good when you're going to a taco stand, my man. And that is just not how you want to break inside P3. That's not how you're going to hold it from the front. This is allowing Sucrees Bakery to really start cutting down this lead. They're still down by a solid hardpoint or so. So they need this hardpoint to be able to be withstood for the last 25 seconds. The Originals are going to try to give themselves one good look to be able to break this from the front again. But if you're Sucrees Bakery, that's fine. You're now down by, yes, again, another set of points. You might send another player or two to try to contest some of the scrap time. It does not come up in their favor. They got to start setting up for the rotation. And now as you have split spawns across the entirety of the map, a lot of individual gunfights are going to start ensuing for Sucrees Bakery to try to get themselves the favorable side of the map. Finally, some dust will settle, and they're going to get themselves to the backside, but nobody has read that Rafi is all the way back to the warehouse trying to block the spawns for Sucrees Bakery.
Yeah, even better. They don't just box the spawns. They turn them in their own favor. They're going to continue to spawn in that backline now, but dealing with the pressure is going to be Sucrees Bakery. Grad almost turns on a super there. He tries to take him out under the train. It won't happen. Now Sucrees Bakery in for this time. This is once again another opportunity in a long line of opportunities for Sucrees Bakery to come back into this game and really start to feel level with the Originals. But look at that kill feed. It is the Originals coming out on top, and they don't even need to be in this hill, Andy. They just need to stop Sucrees Bakery and get the time.
Yeah, contested time is going to be good time again for the Originals. They have that leader's advantage just by about 50 points or so, so being able to hold it from the front, that's exactly what the Originals did in the first set of hard points. But Sucrees Bakery are playing with a certain amount of sauce this time around. Coming in towards P4, they are not going to get broken up so easily from the front. Again, it is a very sizable lead again, and we say that here on Vanguard because there's constant fights that are coming through from the first 20 and for the back scrap time as well. Sucrees Bakery will soak that up. It's a 30-point lead as we go to the center of the map again.
Well, skills now going in favor of the Originals. This is as close as Sucrees Bakery have been basically the entirety of this game. They were only 25 points behind. Now, though, that lead will be growing once more as the Originals were in control of that third story. So I think there are still players up there in Furious and Grad. Sucre peeks out to try and deal with them, but it will be all for naught as now Grad in the hard point, soaking up this time. Furious providing the cover. But how much cover can you really provide when that floor from under you is basically being shot out? Furious feeling the pressure of Sucrees Bakery. He will be removed from that third story, and now they can finally pick up some time.
30 seconds, still the lead, 20 seconds remaining in G5, and we'll go into a third set of hard points. If you're looking at this from the Originals' perspective, that's why they're mostly playing around the statue side, just trying to keep Sucrees Bakery members off, trying to keep them trapped over by those warehouse spawns. Isolated gunfight, Eric Boom trying to push a little bit too close to the sun, putting on their best Icarus impression. Will go down inside the office, trying to cause distress over by the upper courtyard area. Won't be able to find much of anything. So when we go in towards the third set, Brody, again, very close are Sucrees Bakery, but they got to break this early.
And they've been behind basically all game now. Can they do it here? Well, the first wave of gunfights will be going in the Originals' favor. Sucrees Bakery, they've got to put something together pretty quickly, but look at the overextensions coming out of the Originals roster. They're pushing all the way through the train station, making Sucrees Bakery spawn out across the map. The Originals, one more wave of gunfights. This would be it. Furious, trying to take these players down outside. Super and Sucre able to pick up two. Now Raffy, can he spoil the party? Here he can, picks up two. Grad with another one. Nobody can get in, but Super now for two of his own. The Originals, they have not won this just yet, but that gunfight might have done it. Can somebody touch this? Sucre should be able to. Not when Furious is here guarding that one, and the Originals win their second hard point of this series, and they will be sending us towards a game number 5.
Going to a game 5, Brody, on the first match of the day for you and me here on the official COD Challengers broadcast, man. And honestly speaking, I mean, the Originals are just looking really good when it comes down to the hardpoint as a whole. I mean, the stats already speak volumes for itself. From top to bottom, the objective kills were all the way very, very consistent for all 4 players that are represented here for the Originals roster. Very nice to be able to see for them to be able to come into their own. A very reserved hardpoint, I would say. Again, the Gavutu was quite rewarding for them, being able to hold each other's crosses, being able to create certain angles and avenues for the SMGs to be able to slip the net. I mean, how many times have we ended up talking like Niles in from the back, or another player like Rafi's in from the back? All of these are cause and interest coming from the Originals AR players that are constantly berating Sucrees Bakery every single time they thought that they were getting set up. They were just being gunned from the front continuously on every single hardpoint. And once you get those streaks in your back pocket, yeah, I know the glide bomb didn't find anything whatsoever, but it was what they did off of the streaks itself, Brody. Being able to then take the map back away, get their SMGs nice up close and personal inside P3, breaking it like they did, keeping it contested, never allowed Sucrees Bakery to get too close to that scoreline.
Well, if there's one thing I'm certain of here, Andy, is that the hardpoint game from the Originals has improved greatly from pre-season when we were casting over them in the Challengers Cup. So let's take a look then at the replays for that one as we look into this one. I mean, really, for me, it was relatively close earlier on, right? I mean, the Originals, they did build up a lead, but it was only by about 30 to 40 points. It was on the second rotation, P2, I'm sure we'll see it, where they basically got a full 60 seconds off the back of a hill, and that, for me, was when the Originals basically became untouchable.
Yeah, I don't want to say that it was Sucrees Bakery. Like, you can even see right here when we went into P3 for the first time. Like, it's just about a 6 or 7 point lead. I'm not going to sit here and say that Sucrees Bakery were trying to get too cute with their breaks and maybe too cheeky with their setups, but the break for P3 was very linear. It did not look like a championship caliber team when they were just constantly trying to work their way from the front in a single file line. And from there on out, the Originals were just constantly finding themselves favorable gunfights. Nile started going on a spree. They started feeling the gunny as well as they started really rotating around and finding certain flanks in different avenues to keep Sucrees Bakery offset as well. That it came down to just isolated gunfights, that it felt like that Sucrees Bakery at that point in time coming away from P3, that every single player almost felt like that they had to go Super Saiyan God mode, that they had to get some heroics out of the way. And every single time that they tried to do that, there was another avenue that was being looked at. There was another cross being held by an automaton out from the originals. It was just nice clinical hardpoint coming through from the originals as a whole, which is why they were able to take both hardpoints in this series.
Yeah, shout out to Niall, by the way, as well. He had a stellar game. I think he was like 18 and 8 one point. I'm not entirely sure what he finished on. Nonetheless, just incredible hardpoint coming out of him, of course, the player joining this core 3. And he has really filled the role, I think, that this team really wanted. That kind of aggressive flex player for the roster, playing extremely well now on the team. And we're now getting to a game number 5. I am so excited for this, Andy. It's our first cast officially together for challenges for the 2022 season. It's a game number 5. Where are we going? Well, we're going to the desert, baby. We're going to Desert Siege for this map number 5, of course. Cast your minds back to the Berlin, though. I mean, this is a very interesting story overall, right, Andy? Because generally speaking, we expected that Search and Destroy to go the way of the originals, the better S&D team on paper. That is not what happened.
No, it's not what happened, and it kind of leans into the narrative of exactly why it happened. The one thing that we didn't see out of the originals, but was honestly the boon of success for Sucrees Bakery on that Berlin Search and Destroy, it's the Kar 98K. I don't honestly remember even the originals trying to attempt to bring out a Kar 98K. If they tried to snipe, it obviously didn't work in a round favorable for them. They were finding a lot more success on getting up close and personal, trying to work for those very quick plants over by B, trying to hold long crosses with the automaton. But I go back to that map number 2 with Sucrees sniping on offense and Super sniping on defense. The dynamic of the Sucrees Bakery roster on Search and Destroy as a whole kind of scares me a little bit from the original's perspective, because Desert Siege has a lot of nerdy angles, a lot of cross-map potential with the Kar 98K when you're thinking about the sand dune side of the map, when you're thinking about the railroad side of the map as well. Top University is an absolute virtue for a sniper to be able to watch the cross, and that creates a lot of openings for your SMGs to get inside and get mixy and catch a lot of enemies off guard.
Yeah, I do actually remember the beginning of last season when we got to cast over Sucrees Bakery, of course. They weren't named that back then. But it was the sniper players on, like, Checkmate. You know, we saw it from Lucky, I think, for the current Young Galactics roster. You know, also, we see it from Super coming onto this roster, Sucree as well. We kind of, as you say, trading that sniper rifle on the offense and the defense in that game number 2. And you're absolutely right to talk about the fact that maybe we will probably see one from the originals here. They are really good at adaptation for Search and Destroy. They know how important that is going to be. And we will see many sniper battles over towards that literal desert sand dune side of the map. Don't be surprised if teams consistently push towards that side of the map as well for the bomb. That is pretty much Desert Siege in a nutshell. It is the easier bomb to get down. It's the easier bomb to defend. That being said, again, I am super excited to get into this one, of course. You know, as is always the case with these challenges tournaments, with these challenges matches, they never quite go as you expect them to, especially given how kind of high quality we see the play be now in European Call of Duty and North American as well, by the way, which will be coming later on during the stream. But of course, this is a big match. I think that's something we can probably talk about as well. Both of these two teams, I think looking at them, they're both vying, I would say, for like top 4 positions in European challenges at the moment. So this makes this a really important match to make sure that you do get into that knockout bracket, which will be the top 4 teams at the end of round robin.
Getting confirmation through production as well. Shout outs to you all in the back house for confirming this information. This is the first time that both these teams through Elite Season 1 will end up playing on a Desert Siege Search and Destroy. And to be completely candid with you, I mean, this is a map that honestly doesn't get through a lot of the times. It's one of those maps that, again, you don't typically see. You know, you get a lot of Bocages, you get your Berlin Search and Destroys, you get your Tuscan Search and Destroys. Obviously, the way that the map bans and vetoes ended up playing out for ourselves, we end up here for a Desert Siege Search and Destroy. Again, a lot of question marks for what these teams are going to start looking like. Sniper rifle absolutely in play. You talked about that execute down here on the sand dune side for the bomb itself. Smoke's absolutely going to be a favor to be able to get that bomb down very quickly, and the post plants need to be good.
Indeed they do. Let's get right into it then. It's time for our first game 5 of day number 2. It's between the very first 2 teams we see on broadcast, and who else but the sniper rifle in the hands of Grad, who will actually take down Super. That's a big gunfight to take right out the off, but Eric Boom with a long-range MP40 kill will be able to take out Grad in turn.
Yeah, long-range MP40 again. Not exactly can shrug away from long-range engagements. Now 3v3. Yako still holding on to the bombs. Now feeling the opportunity to be able to work their way over towards B. And Rafi in this position, they're just waiting for some timing. They might just find it.
Oh, no. What a read coming in from Eric Boom. He does actually have the automaton in this fight now. Yako 1v1. That's what he's going to bring this down to. Now, fortunately for Yako in this play, he has already retrieved the bomb, but he might take it a little bit too long here to try and guess where Furious is going to go. Currently, he does have a free bomb site. I think as Furious checks over towards 8, he'll now recognize where this bomb is going down. Yako refusing to put this bomb down at the moment.
Yeah, playing against the audio cues, right? Seeing if they get challenged out, clearing out the opposite bomb site. They had ample time to make this play end up happening, and this is a smart call from Furious. You know, you're not getting any mutual information until right now. It's going to have to be a retake, but Yako going inside a university, getting mixy. One of these players is going to catch another on rotation as Furious is just slow rotating back over towards the railroad.
Furious didn't see him as well. There was a chance that he could have done, of course. Yako technically did cross his line of sight. Yako going to check the bomb. Now Furious will have seen him. Can Yako dip and dive away? Furious definitely knows he's here now for sure. There's those shots coming in. Yako trying to be an annoyance. Can he get away? Oh, Yako going to run away, but no. Furious jumps on top of the rail cart. That's hardcore parkour right there as Furious closes out the round.
Yeah, it's not even urban parkour either. I mean, these are sand dunes, trains crashing into sandbags type of parkour. So, you know, for the original side, it all comes through. I mean, Grad taking down the sniper rifle of Sucrees Bakery off the get-go there is everything. And I'm glad that I got the immediate answer because we did not see a sniper rifle out from Grad over by Berlin. If we did, it obviously didn't find success for us to speak volumes about it. And got a little bit hairy there, but in a 1v1, especially having the automaton versus the MP40, finding some early damage, not a whole lot you can do there from Yako, not unless they try to go for an ego challenge, try to claim that kill. So now we go into an offensive round. The originals, Grad saw him cross, and Sucre probably saw the glint as well, but Sucre will find first blood no less.
Grad with the sniper rifle. He already took out Super once in that prior round. It is, of course, Sucre now with that sniper rifle. Super actually still might have it, not entirely sure, but regardless, there are players on both sides that could potentially be running that. Now, though, no snipes in the play. Eric Boom will run through the university. Unfortunately, gets taken down by Furious, and now the advantage well in favor of the originals, especially as that trade comes on through. Now a 2 versus 2. Super actually able to put the trade in favor of Sucrees Bakery. It is just Rafi left alive, and of course they have the information that he is the one with the sniper rifle in hand.
He's got an MP40. Remember, it's Grad with the Car 98K for us, Brody. And for that one little bit of information, remember that first blood that came all the way through? That was on the bomb carrier. And that bomb did patty cake itself just right down over top of the bomb site, just outside of the little ruined archway. And off of that information alone, you're able to then try to collapse. I mean, it really came down to Eric Boom to be able to find value inside of the university. Obviously, that little wall that is in the middle, you can obviously see through that, as Eric Boom did not expect the player to challenge them in the middle of the map. But, you know, the two players that were holding down by the sand dune side, that was Sucre for that defensive side. Now it's going to be the bomb carrier here for the offense. Super not wanting to give Rafi any sort of an angle, not this time around. They lost their head the last time as Furious pulls out the automaton, one to finding that first blood just outside the university.
So if we're trying to make this trade happen, gonna cook up a nade to see if it lands. It will not, at least from our perspective. So Yako now will have to be the player to even the odds up here in the play. Can't find anything just yet. Looking through the window, Grad will pick up that snipe onto Super. This round gets even worse as that one player peeks out. Sucrees Bakery might end up losing him. Grad with the sniper rifle has been detrimental to Sucrees Bakery this game so far.
Yeah, there's no sniper in play now for Sucrees Bakery as Super will go down. Remember, it's Sucre that does defensively snipe, Super with the offensive snipe. So we'll find some timing to be able to cross here, but we're down to 30 seconds. You got to be able to make a play happen in this numbers disadvantage. And the way that Sucrees Bakery are playing, they're almost baiting out an unforced error to come through, but the originals are giving them absolutely nothing.
There's only 20 seconds for Sucre and Yako to do something here as Sucre ends up falling. Yako left up all on his lonesome. He has been spotted out by that last player, and there you go. The originals systematically pick them off one by one. That is a great defensive round from them.
You got to really just respect the overall moxie from Grad as a whole as a Car 98K player, right? I mean, typically when you do see snipers play on a map like Desert Siege, you know, they won't slow roll their way around angles, but they'll try to throw a shoulder, get the information where the enemy sniper is located at. I mean, Grad just cancels his way into a quickscope, and more often than not, just has the centering perfect, as you would almost expect him to do, playing at such a high level here in European Call of Duty. But a 1-round lead here for the Originals going into round number 4. This is a great read coming out from Sucrees Bakery, pushing through the railroad.
Sucrees Bakery going to win those first few gunfights, looking for another one, but Grad will end up winning the first with the Rat. It is a 1 versus 3. Rafi, how quickly this round has fallen by the wayside. Of course, that bomb in basically no man's land as far as he's concerned. He needs any advantage he can get. He does get that first kill. There hasn't quite been a trade yet from Super. I think that they're kind of being patient about this one so that Sucre can come in from behind and take him out of the equation. But Rafi still alive for now. And he's even gifted the kill against Super. There is no way he wins this 1 versus 3. It simply isn't possible. I think Sucre should take him down here. There you go. It's an attempt at a flank from Rafi. It's not to be, but that 1 versus 3, I mean, it was a possibility.
It certainly was a possibility. I mean, the sun check came through, confirmed, hey, he has not moved. A lot of damage did come through on the previous gunfight to that, and with Rafi not having the regen come all the way through, they had to reposition themselves to get closer towards the university, get themselves in a favorable spot to maybe try to full wrap around, but Sucrees Bakery off that push through the railroad. I love that gut check call. It pays dividends that the Originals were committing towards that A-bomb just off the rip like that. And with an aggressive SMG play up the middle, they get themselves evened up here to a piece. So now they're going to take their turn, get players close towards this university. A Super with the bomb, trying to play around these knocked over railroad cars, trying to get themselves over towards A, but there's a lot of shots just belittling them, but the push is going to come through. Great call for Sucrees Bakery.
Nice first blood coming in from Eric Boom. Nice nade also, though, from Rafi, who is going to be able to even the odds here. 3 for 3 we go. Bomb. Not going to move anywhere just yet. Of course, the Originals do have eyes on both of these sites. Niall takes down Super. That is Bomb, whether or not he realizes it. And that's a great position now for the Originals. As Sucrees Bakery, everything will fall apart. Now a 2 versus 2, though. Yet again, it is a nade that evens the odds.
Bomb's going to get scooped up here by Eric Boom. They're going to try to rotate this. If they guess the 50-50 correctly, yeah, Eric Boom's going to clear out the top side of the ruin. They're going to try to plant this bomb, but Niall's on the complete opposite side of this. Yako's in not a position to be able to cover his cross. The bomb's going to go down, and Yako goes down as well. Eric Boom in a 1v2 in a post plant.
Look how quick this push is, of course. It has to make noise to break through. Yeah, he will hear this, though. That's the thing as well. You can hear the defuse when somebody's on it, and there you go. Niall with the cover. That is like that kind of classic position coming out from Niall and Grad here in the 2 versus 1. The cover is there, the defuse is there, and the Originals, well, they come out on top.
Well, hey, it's a strategy and a testament to search and destroy. The oldest time itself, right? I mean, it's one of those things. You know, you got the numbers advantage, as you call there, Brody. Have one player hop on the bomb. This is going to end up getting challenged out. You got to check it at that point in time, but you're holding the cross knowing that there's only so many different places they're going to come from and able to watch from the back and then able to guess that they were coming out from the top side of that university. So being able to recognize all of that and some more will keep the Originals at least in a 1-round lead. Here comes Grad again, so aggressive towards taking these angles. They're now going to hard scope towards this, but the defense for Sucrees Bakery last time around got aggressive towards A, and that brought a lot of respect out from the Originals.
Nice skill coming in from Rafi. Good shots, as you say, long range. Of course, the automaton, it's a good weapon, but you still got to be skilled to hit those for the range. Super will end up falling out of the round. Now 3 for 3 we go. The Originals, they have eyes on that B site, and it's going to get easier as well because Furious makes all that noise over towards A. You've got Eric Boom voraciously hunting him down, and of course, Eric now the only one in the round. He has a ton to do here in this 1 versus 3. That bomb will be going down. He's about to get caught with his pants down on the flank, and the Originals, once again, they make that round work.
I hate when I get caught with my pants down on the flank like that. I feel that, Eric. I absolutely feel that. I mean, there's really no way that you would ever guess like that Furious was going to put themselves in the offensive spawn like that. I mean, that's such a smart call from Furious. They had not seen Eric Boom that entire round until that exact moment in time. Understanding that, hey, it's probably going to be a flank play that's happening. We already took down one player over by the outskirts of the A lane, so I'm going to put myself in the back. Try to get ourselves these kills, and it comes through. 2-round lead here for the Originals. A big deficit, the biggest deficit we've actually seen here in map number 5 between these two teams at Sucrees Bakery. I'm gonna hop on board with Super, this car 98K, see if they can work this nerdy angle, but it's Eric Boom going 1 for 1 in the middle of the map.
Corby made to Yako that Niall is in this position. Can Yako work off the back of the information? He will get the first kill. Sees the second player as well. Wants to dip away. Did he see that? I'm sure he saw that second player, but he's probably not going to act on the information at the very least as Furious takes him down. Now Super with the snazzy plays. He has an MP40, has a sniper rifle to work with. Basically has the entire arsenal available here on Desert Siege. Now trying to outplay Raffi and Furious, who will look to play this one together. This is that S&D prowess that we kind of expect to see when you've got two players like this who have played together for years.
And Super has no information at all. Look at where the originals put themselves. They actually are playing two different corners of the offensive side of the map. Super is going to feel so confused. 30 seconds left to play, and they're going to need a couple shots. Want to be able to plant this bomb. They still have no idea where they're being shot from.
I think he knew where he was being shot from, but at the very least, I think he was just trying to make a call that, hey, this player's probably going to peek out right. The best thing I can do with 20 seconds left, I have to make a decision, I have to make some kind of play. But the thing is, with Raffi and Furious, they aren't overplaying this. They aren't pushing for these gunfights aggressively. They know all they need to do is stop Super from getting this bomb down, catch some corners, and there you go. Super tries to make a route happen, unfortunately, runs out of tarmac, and that's going to be a round for the originals that puts them into match point here to take this match away from Sucrees Bakery.
What a big match it would be for the originals. They walked in here with a 50% overall map differential. 1-1 on day number 1 against Sucrees Bakery, who did win both their matchups yesterday. Again, we were talking about this in the digital green room, if you will, between Infinity and I, that there's really only about 2 losses that you want to be giving yourself. So it would be a big loss if the originals felt it, but what a bounce back it would be. 3 rounds in the lead on an offensive round for the originals. They've been able to play off of the sniper rifle of Grad continuously, but it seems like that they're not necessarily taking these aggressive angles. It's actually over towards the railroad this time around. And yeah, I was waiting for it. Furious got themselves that glide bomb in that previous round. It's going to be a lot of information.
Forces all those players inside the university. That's just what the originals want now, as they want to take this bomb towards A. Of course, it is important to note Furious is still actually on this streak as well. Could Jacko take him off it, though? There it is. The trade coming on through, because Raffi's already taken Eric Boom out of this round. The numbers will now fall. Sucree taking down Nile, a 3 versus 2. And that bomb is right pushed up to the bomb site. There is nobody there for cover.
Sucree trying to reposition themselves. Raffi's going to take them down. You got both the players now, Raffi and Grad for the originals. You're going to fully wrap this all the way across the sand dune side. Time is their immediate adversary, though, here, Brody. They utilize the streak, and this might just be a round that they're going to have to throw away, especially with Raffi being on 4. They want to play for this kill streak later on and down the line. I can only imagine being able to benefit them in later rounds. Can the player get out? No, they take down Raffi. Huge kill.
Grad has wrapped all the way through here. Unless he gets some gorgeous timing, this should be a round that will not be his. Sucrees Bakery survived that brush with death, and you mentioned why that is such an important round. Yes, of course, Sucrees Bakery have to win it, survive overall in the series, but that is a streak that's been utilized, and Furious doesn't get the second one. That strafing run was denied. Streaks on this map are huge, so that at the end of the day, that is a small win for Sucrees Bakery. They'll be very happy with that, but they've still got to do this 3 more times over to pull off the comeback.
It's a 1W step for a potential bigger W later on down the line for Sucrees Bakery. They're still down by 2 to force it out to a round 11. 3 rounds in a row. 4 rounds total if they want to win the map as a whole. They're going to take this over towards B. Super does have the sniper. Grad on the opposite side is playing that angle, waiting for players to cross. Nothing to really speak of. Yakko's trying to at least fish for any sort of information here, but they're not getting any pushback. No stuns, no nades, until Raffi drops down. Big kill.
Raffi was just sitting on the other side of that bomb site for the longest time. Now he knows that bomb is down, of course, and that is all the information that the originals need in this round. They've still got their sniper play up. Furious comes through to take down Sucree as well. And Sucrees Bakery, they are forced all the way back on the sound dune. Super misses his sniper way. Now they know where he is. You can see all those arrows swarming onto Super. You gotta imagine time running out for Super here. And the originals, they have done it. They come through with their search and destroy prowess here to win the series 3-2. And they give Sucrees Bakery their first loss of the season.
First loss of the season and a handful of maps to boot. That'll move them to a respectable map win-loss differential, but regardless of the matter, it's still big for the originals to be able to solidify themselves as a team that can at least take down some top dogs. We definitely, when we're looking at the rosters as a whole, both you and I, when we were talking about it, we were reading, Furious, Grad, Raffi, and Nile. We were trying to frame up a lot of backstory and narratives for this team as a whole. We know that they got the chops to be able to take down every single team if they are playing well on the day, but it's going to have to come through in the back end of the search and destroy. It was very interesting to be able to see how things did end up playing out. We'll show you the best of 5 map set and how we ended up getting to this point in time. That Berlin Search and Destroy really was a question for me, but everything kind of got thrown into a loop once the originals were able to 100-point club Sucrees Bakery on the hardpoint. We were talking about how the originals were going to be the better search team and Sucrees Bakery were going to be the better respawn team. But being able to take those 2 respawns and forcing out the map 5 of Desert Siege,
I mean, that's huge. Being able to get to that map 5, understanding that Search and Destroy is your bread and butter for the Originals, is going to solidify themselves as a championship caliber team so long as they can continue to keep their hard point up.
Yeah, I think what I will say, if positives for Sucrees Bakery at the moment, looking to that control, I kind of understand now why they were able to win Gavutu control 3-0 both times around in their prime matches versus the TMT roster and Flux. I think they did extremely well in that. That being said, beyond the control, with how well they played that, I think, the hard points didn't look so great for them, especially that first one. I think that is going to come back to haunt them. And of course, the Search and Destroy, yes, they won one, but that last one, it's unfortunate, isn't it? Sometimes that's just the way the cookie crumbles. As they lose 3-2, they take their first loss of the season. Let's go to our schedule then to show you guys what we've got coming up next as well, because this is not the only match for you guys at home, not whatsoever. We have Flux Esports going head-to-head with Young Galactics. That is going to be next up on the docket. Of course, you can see those North American matches later on as well. 18 and Cracked and UIU and Whatever It Takes versus Texas Nation. But that next match is going to be very interesting, I think. We have the number 1 seed going head-to-head here with the number 8 seed in terms of how the seeding works with the 8 teams we have in stage number 1. It is a David versus Goliath situation. Young Galactics, they have looked hot this season.
Yeah, I mean, they're coming into this at a 1-1 record. They had a really tight map number 5 going down to the wire versus Moneyform yesterday. Able to then reverse sweep Revenge Story, able to get the revenge versus them after beating them twice on over in Cup number 4. Big things are on the horizon for the Young Galactics roster, but Flux Esports has an opportunity to completely play upset on the day.
Yep, indeed they do. Well, that is coming up right next. Flux Esports going head-to-head with Young Galactics, as we say, David versus Goliath. They've already lost 1 series. Hey, it's not within the realms of possibility that they could lose another. That said, we're going to go to a break. When we return, we'll have that match and much more after this. I am muted. I had a meltdown there. I apologize, guys. Welcome one and all back to the Call of Duty Challenges broadcast. I knew I was muted somewhere. It's okay, guys. We are about to jump into our second set of matches here in Europe. Flux Esports versus Galactics. That is going to be our match that we focus on, as we mentioned before we jumped into the break. Andy, things in Europe have gone pretty smoothly. You and I kind of took a look at kind of the scores on the doors as we got into this one, looking at the teams and the matches around the grounds. Everything's kind of gone as we expected.
Yeah, it sure has. You know, just catch everybody up through the first matches that were played throughout the entirety of the day. You saw here on the main broadcast, Sucrees Bakery lost in 5 maps of the originals. To beat United Nations, also in 3 maps, and then Flux Esports, they lost some money for them, but they still took away that Search and Destroy as you take a look at the standings so far.
Yeah, indeed, and these standings are important, of course, so the next match we'll be playing, of course, Flux Esports going head-to-head with Young Galactics, and 2 very different positions. Young Galactics now 2-1 after their last victory. Flux Esports sit at the very bottom with their loss versus Moneyform 0-3. I think it is important to note as well, Moneyform right at the top there. I cannot wait to get them on stream, of course, with you and I casting over them, Andy, because 3-0, they are currently the most successful team here in Season 1 for Europe. That being said, let's talk about this match then. We've got Flux Esports going head-to-head with Team Galactics, Young Galactics. These 2 rosters, very, very different positions. You know, I said it before we came into the break here. You know, this is a David versus Goliath situation. Let's talk about David first. It's Flux Esports. They come in here as almost kind of the dark horse of this season, right? The 8th team.
They have to be the dark horse. They have to be able to upset a lot of these other teams. Of course, being 0-3 now as a total. Things are not looking pretty good for 11, Corey, Sean, and Snake. You know, they walked into the entirety of the I would say the 11 seed for the entire qualifiers. They upset Signs to qualify. That was a complete turnaround after what happened in Cup number 4. For this Flux Esports roster, they are nevertheless the underdog for the Elite Season 1 here for us, Brody. They are looking very good in Search and Destroy, as they are currently 2-9 overall for maps. And the 2 maps that they've taken, well, they're Search and Destroys.
Yep, and that is something we are going to be looking forward to for this Flux Esports roster. They are very, very good at Search and Destroy. I think that was something that was kind of mentioned to me by a community caster. I think it was Chafing, who actually had that conversation with me. Said, yeah, these guys are actually pretty good at Search and Destroy. They've played in a number of amateur leagues, and that is kind of the background of which they're coming in from. But, you know, I think the one thing I do want to talk about overall here as well is, you know, given the fact that they are the underdog here of Elite Season 1, you know, not many teams actually know much about them. Generally speaking, you have a lot of rosters that maybe will come in here and do a lot of research on the opposition. You're not going to find that much information about this Flux Esports roster, given they are the new boys on the block for Season 1. And let's see if they can go head-to-head with Young Galactics. That is going to be the team they're going head-to-head with. Andy, we could probably talk about Young Galactics basically all day long. This roster, Journey, Lucky, Metals, and Royale. They're currently sitting 3rd overall in the placements. Of course, 2-1 now, actually, is going to be their current placements. But let it be known, they were the #1 team coming into Elite Season 1.
Oh, absolutely. You know, winning 3 cups in a row definitely does something for a team and their confidence for sure. You know, they got 2nd in Cup number 4, losing to Revenge Shore twice over. I was talking about that before we actually hopped to a break. It was both Winners Finals and Grand Finals in Cup number 4 that Revenge Shore did take over Young Galactics. Still going to give themselves that 1st seed. Winning 3 out of the 4 of those Challengers Cups, again, that's a lot of confidence to speak of. Real is that new kid on the block in the Challenger scene, but from the S&D scene and everything else in between for Spanish Call of Duty, it's been playing with these 3 for quite some time. It's nice to finally see Journey, Lucky, and Metals. You know, they bounce around a lot of different 4s last season. During the Cold War season, Real turns 18. He fits like a glove.
Yeah, I will say one thing as well. You know, we talk about the fact that they did actually lose a match yesterday. I think for historical purposes, we should say, if you didn't get a chance to watch yesterday's matches, you know, it should be known here that they did end up facing Moneyform Game 5, Round 11, and that Moneyform roster did come out on top. Of course, the other match, as you say, was a reverse sweep. So for these guys, you know, this could well have been a situation where Young Galactics, they come out the season starting 3-0. It was just that Round 11 again that will haunt them moving forward. They will not be flawless regardless of what happens with the remainder of the round robin stage. That said, here of course we have 2 very different teams. You know, looking at the keys to victory for this roster moving forward, you know, looking at the rosters here, Andy, we'll start with Flux. What do they really need to do looking forward in this series?
I mean, we already highlighted a handful of times. The two maps that they've already taken here in Elite Season 1 for Europe, it's come off of Search and Destroys. They need to continue to be a S&D powerhouse. But the issue is, you're never going to see that map 5 unless you take a respawn along the way. Somebody for this team needs to step up. Now, you and I, as we were watching Flux Esports out through the entirety of day 1 yesterday, Sean was a big bright spot. They were constantly pressuring things out with Snake on the opposite side. Steady ARs in the background as well between Corey and 11. Somebody needs to be the bright spot for this team if they want to be able to take a respawn.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's look at our series layout to show you guys what those Search and Destroyers will look like and what those respawns will look like for these two teams. We're going to be kicking things off on Berlin for Hardpoint, followed up by a Bacage for Search and Destroy. That will certainly throw a mixer into this particular situation. Tuscan will be our swing game in the series. That will be our control, followed up by another Tuscan and Desert Siege and the Hardpoint and the Search and Destroy if we require it. Looking at this map set, do we kind of feel this favors either of these teams particularly?
I mean, everything's going to be favoring Young Galactics, no matter the best of 5 series that you're going to be looking at, just historically across European challengers so far. I mean, that's just what it comes with when you are the underdog. You are that 8th and final seed leading into the first season. You got to be able to make a name for yourself. You have to prove me wrong, Flux Esports, if you want to be able to beckon to be one of the better teams here in European Call of Duty as a whole. Given how everything has favored for Young Galactics, so looking across the entirety of the best of 5, they have that win on Berlin Hardpoint. They're a 1-1 when it comes down to Bocage Search and Destroy. They were able to take that Search and Destroy versus money for him, of course, losing that Berlin Search and Destroy later on. And then they also lost a Bocage Hardpoint in their second match versus Revenge Tour. So, I mean, it's definitely an interesting map set to say the least, but I'm mostly going to keep a keen focus on that map 1 and 2. The Berlin Hardpoint, it's got to be a big one for Flux Esports. They got to be able to rely on 11 to be able to really work a lot of these longer angles to be able to offset what Lucky and co for that Young Galactics roster is bringing to the table.
Yeah, absolutely. You talk about it, one of these players does have to step up to the plate, of course. For me, the player that is most likely to do it, actually, you talk about 11 as potential player that we'll be looking forward to. For me, I think it's Corey, right? Of course, Bearish Corey will be his full name in the game. We are going to be calling him Corey per his own request. That being said, Corey, I think, is a player. He is quite literally the newest player on the block. I think everybody else here, looking at this team, looking at Sean, Snake, and 11, they all have had encounters with a variety of different players from this elite stage, whether it be early kind of stages in Challengers Cups. People have played them. For Corey, he is quite literally the underdog. He is the newest player, the rookie of all rookies in this European Challengers Elite, and there's a reason that he is on this team. He has played really well. I think looking over towards that Elite qualifier, looking over towards some of the earlier Challengers Cups in this season where maybe you and I have got a chance to cast over him. For me, he might well be the player that will step up to the plate here and play extremely well. But you're absolutely right to point out, Andy, as we get into this map number 1, I mean, look, they're not necessarily expecting to win it, I think, for Flux, but if they can do this, they'll be feeling pretty confident going into what will be their best game mode.
You can't walk into this matchup expecting to win or lose. I mean, that's just not a championship mentality at the end of the day. I'm sure the Young Galactics are feeling quite comfortable walking away with their series win that they just had 3-0 versus United Nations. But even still, for Flux Esports, being down 0-3, the way that everything's been shaken up so far for us, Brody, and as far as standings are concerned, it's still a real possibility that you would have to essentially win out of all your matches going forward. We're now about at that halfway margin. Remember, at the top of the broadcast, we talked about the overall format. Every single team is playing a minimum of 7 round-robin matches. Right. For Flux Esports, they'd have to essentially win out. It's not obviously required, but being able to play upset, even against other differentials, being able to take maps off of Young Galactics, that'd be the step in the right direction with further weeks to come.
Yeah, for sure. This is a match, I think, overall as well. Flux Esports, they do need to win it. You talk about it, right? You don't want to go 0-4 down because that'll put you 3-4 at best. That's not a winning position. Shout out to our observers. You can see it on our screen. John Prosper and Waldo Keen, both incredible observers from the Hot Hounds Lounge. We love those guys and what they bring to a broadcast. Without them, it probably wouldn't look anywhere near as great. That being said, we're about to jump into Berlin for Hardpoint, and I'm really excited to get into this one.
Yeah, Berlin Hardpoint is going to be a real battle for scrap for the initial time. Setups are going to be bountiful, and really what you're going to be looking for as well. And it will be Young Galactic starting off on the favorite side of the map. They will have the early interest influence this office area. Big 3-for-1 to start things off. Young Galactics coming out the gate swing.
It's not really a surprise, is it, for this Young Galactics roster for Flux? They're really going to want to slow up the tempo of this game as much as humanly possible. I don't really know whether Young Galactics will allow them to do that, just given how high pace of a team they actually can be. Annoyance is Real. This is the player that has been the talking point time and time again for Young Galactics this season.
It absolutely has. Again, freshly 18, first season coming into European Call of Duty Challengers. But as I was presenting for Young Galactics, it's not the first go of things with Real playing with Lucky, Metals, and Journey. Just waiting for that 18th birthday, and then we got Real coming all the way through, making a run up it all the way through European Challengers. What a kill feed to be looking at. Brody, Flux Esports only have 2 kills to speak of, while Young Galactics are about to be over that 50-point margin going into 2.
More to the point here as well, they have no control over the rotation whatsoever. They didn't for at least 20, 30 seconds. They could have rotated early if they really wanted to. They decided to go at the scrap time. That hasn't really worked out in their favor. Now, can they break on through to get some points on the board? This would be a good opportunity for them to do it here. 11 breaks on through the window, able to get the first kill, turns around for the wrap for the second, will get it, combines with Sean, and hey, would you look at that, Flux? They're on the board here. This is a good start for them.
And that's a real good timely break. You still have 30 seconds left. Now you have to read where the respawns for Young Galactics are coming from. It's going to be around the warehouse side, P4 if you will. A little bit more of a linear hit. Young Galactics are trying to really poke and prod their way to be able to find some picks. Battling for the scrap time will be an absolute virtue continuously for this Berlin map between these two teams. It will finally come through for Young Galactics off of those handful of kills. But we're holding the rotation over to 3 for the time being. It's Flux Esports.
2 over kills coming out from Young Galactics here. Journey starting to put the streak together, of course. Long-range gunfights with the MP40. They're not exactly the toughest things in the world to win, but it still does take skill to do it. Journey has that in spades. He will pick up that 1 kill versus Snake in the backline. The rest of his teammates will be ready to execute here onto this hard point. Not watching Rail, but Journey. Sean there, sorry. Turns around, takes out Real, and well, it's going to be Flux Esports in for the first wave of gunfights and in for the time.
And you can absolutely make a mockery of score points when you are holding on 4-3. Already halfway through P3 are Flux Esports, but take a look at Metal's positioning on the map. They're actually going to be blocking all the spawns, forcing Flux Esports to be in more precarious positions more often than not. But the rest of from Young Galactics coming through the upper courtyard.
Corey able to pick up 2 of those gunfights. 11 now going to clean things up over towards that patio area. Flux Esports, that's a very good hold coming in from them. They will be more than happy to take that one through. Now, just a quick note as well. 11 was actually on a spree there, did get shut down, so no glide for him. That would have been huge going over towards this rail yard as these rotational gunfights currently being won here by Young Galactics. What they don't realize is that Sean has snuck his way on through, infiltrated the defensive line, and should be able to influence these spawns.
Should be. If Young Galactics are the team that we're proposing them to be, they should be able to recognize this. Real's that player that's kind of lurking in the middle of mailroom. They're not going to resurface themselves. And what a good read actually happening off screen. Taking down Journey inside the concourse. This is setting things up wonderfully for Flux Esports to break in.
Good wave of kills coming on through now for Flux Esports. Can they continue this as they started? Sean starting to heat up here. Looking for kill number 3. Looking for kill number 4. We'll find it. That's 3 in a row for Sean. Surely not but the 4. Metals is there for this one. Sean looking for it. Will be denied. Young Galactics able to continue to spawn in this backline. That is a big stop from Young Galactics. Whether or not they realize it, you don't want to let Flux get streaks. Even a roster like Flux can kind of surprise you if they have those in hand.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, streaks are always going to be able to benefit you if you can end up getting to them, but take a look at the lead so far. Flux Esports even walking away from P1 for us, Brody. Actually able to recorrect themselves. It's just about 30-point lead. And I say that marginally because it's something that could have been spiraled out of control if they'd end up breaking and having themselves a great P3. So now we go in towards the center of the map here between these two teams. Again, things will remain pretty darn scrappy unless you can convincingly find back-to-back-to-back kill feeds. In the middle of the map of Berlin can relatively feel like an absolute warfare, but a great start for Young Galactics. They're in prime positions across the map to be able to cut down Flux Esports as they're trying to reinforce this hill.
Journey putting some shots on through. Some more gunfights here, trying to cause all sorts of disruptions against this Flux Esports roster. 11 will stick him out, though, and take him out of the equation. Young Galactics, their lead hasn't really changed at the moment, especially as Real is able to pick up 2 just like that. He is and significantly shut out. But again, I mean, the job done, really, for Flux Esports here, or for Young Galactics in this position, right? Because they don't really allow Flux to get much time at all, if anything, off the back of that hardpoint.
Yeah, and that is quite alarming, right? Again, for everything that I was already setting up, for P5, it's typically the most scrappy hill. If you find 10, 15, maybe even 20 seconds of which Young Galactics did going towards the second set, you're really going to start to feel it. This 30-plus point lead that Young Galactics have going in towards the second set could snowball out of control, but Flux Esports make a heads-up play. They get players inside the office trying to set themselves up for P1, and you know how I feel about this, Brody. Going in towards the second set of rotations, you could turn this into a money hill, but Young Galactics, they've resurfaced themselves all the way through the concourse, will break in.
Snake trying to play his life here over towards this area of the map. Unfortunately, will be taken down, but Flux Esports, they have an opportunity to present a pinch here towards Young Galactics. Corey putting those first few shots in. I said he needed to be the player that comes out and plays well here in this game. Flux Esports so far not having a great one at 7 and 14. How much more damage can he do though now? He is flying forward towards these Young Galactics players. Looking to cause even more damage, will finally be shut down, but that is enough here as Flux Esports now going to soak up that time. That's 10 more seconds worth it. They're going to get pretty close to the Young Galactic scoreline. Now fighting for these rotations though are Flux Esports, and it is Real versus a couple of Flux players trying to play his life, not able to.
Still battling for rotation. A couple more engagements are going to be coming through the front door. It's Metal is going to be able to slide into the small room. We'll find that kill, but the trade also insinuating out of from 11th barrel. The Young Galactics able to find the space and the pressure in the center of the map to be able to get themselves inside of 2. This is good initial time. Flux Esports, though, again, coming off of P1, able to marginalize this lead. Still around the 30-point margin or so. Still have ample time to be able to battle for here on 3, or 2, rather.
Real, as his teammate's going to fall around him. He's just trying to make as little noise as humanly possible. There you go. Metal's going to pick up 2. Real looking for number 3. He won't be able to find it. It's Corey and Sean inside the hardpoint. Curie picks up 2. This last 20 seconds is a huge amount of time for Flux to give away if they do end up falling, and they will, but nonetheless, they'll be happy with that. They have fought off Young Galactics inside that hardpoint. That will be considered a victory for them. This rotation, huge in this game. Currently down by about 40 points or so. They win this. They are right back into this game. Can they hold on to it? Corey looking for the first wave of kills in his favor. Pushes a little bit too far out. And now off the back of it as well, Flux Esports still in control of these spawns. Still in control of fire. They're looking good.
Looking pretty darn good as well. You go back to the first set of hills historically on this map between these two teams. Is where Flux Esports were able to get themselves a handful of points plus some more. Be able to knock on that door that the lead for Young Galactics currently hold over their heads. But Young Galactics, very different look from the last go of things. They actually fully swarmed their way over by the dock side, get the spawns in their favor, knowing that Flux Esports are going to spawn closer towards the office.
Here they go. Flux Esports, can they break on through for the last 20 seconds? This isn't realistic speaking time you want to give away. Metal's able to pick up 2. Corey, though, he fires right back, and Corey just holding these guys bay at the moment as we move over towards the rotation. Just 15 seconds left. Not much has really changed since that last hardpoint. Young Galactics still hold the lead. As a matter of fact, it has grown off the back of their break on through. This needs to be the hold for Flux Esports. Can they get it done? Well, there's one player close by at the moment. I'll be journey over towards that train station. One player kind of coming from behind. That's going to be Corey. He could well put a stop to the entirety of this push as long as Flux can hold in the front line. There, the kills now coming through. Sean turning, trying to get that kill onto Real. He will not fall just yet. Hasn't quite been dealt with. 11 can't find him.
And now you're going to be able to play the trade game if you are Young Galactics. At term, the leader's advantage will forever come to mind when you're holding about a 25 to 30 point lead over your adversary's head. But the resurgence is coming around for Flux Esports. 23 and 18 for 11. Definitely going to be the anchor of success so far, but the rest of the team needs to rally around the space that's being provided. Sean to the automaton, able to find the first. 11's going to be able to clean up Journey, trying to resurface themselves inside the hill, but you're able to find one of 2 different battles for Young Galactics. You're able to find gunfights. No, you're not getting on the time itself, but by finding the kills on the hardpoint itself and making sure that that time does go up to the game clock rather than to the bank of Flux Esports, you're going to be in a great spot going forward. You just can't allow Sean to find a flank in timing through the concourse. Big 2-piece for them to be able to find some space moving forward.
They've really brought this game extremely close off the back of that train yard hold as well. It's a hold they've been looking for the last 3 hard points now. They have had it. They're right back into this game. Can they get more time off the back of this hill? Snake is going to be the first player up to bat to try and get control of it. Of course, trying to deal with both Metals and Real. Going to be a tough one to take down, but Corey will deal with the former. Now it is just the latter, still sitting up top in that third story window. Corey is dealt with, and well, I think for Flux, they'll consider this a win at the moment. Young Galactics haven't got a single lick of time off the back of this hard point.
Yeah, again, it's about finding the kills, making sure that that game clock soaks up the most of that hard point time, rather than making sure that anybody can get inside of the hill for some time inside their own bank. And well, it was Young Galactics that were holding the power positions. You talk about the top third that you can have there on the mailroom. You also talk about the cross that you can have inside the concourse. Those power positions were immediately looked at for Flux Esports. An immediate turnaround from the first set of hills when Young Galactics were able to get 25, maybe even close to 30 seconds off the P5. Going in towards another set. It is just about 20 points between these two teams, Brody. And again, it's Flux Esports more or less on the favorite side. But Young Galactics this time around, before the hard point even hits, flood all the way through the concourse.
This is a pretty good start here from Young Galactics. They only need 20 points for victory. That is effectively one wave of kills, one hit. That has to be orchestrated from Flux Esports and Metals' position outside the hardpoint. I don't think Flux expected this whatsoever. It holds them at bay, but Corey and 11 win their initials. Corey with a second as well. The pressure now coming on through. Lucky the only player inside the hardpoint. 11 is zoning these players away at the train station, and as the player's now going to win the fights over towards the Concourse side, Flux Esports, they're in with a chance. Now Corey inside. Can he win these gunfights? Unfortunately, Sean gonna land a nade right at his feet, will take him out of the play, and Young Galactics can well finish it here. They only need a few more seconds. Can Snake do anything about it? He can, technically, trying to fly on through, but Lucky picks up 2. Now any more to get into the hardpoint. Corey, can he put a stop to it? Absolutely not. 4 players through from Young Galactics, and they are gonna finish off that hardpoint.
Oh, man, it got really close there in a handful of times through a multitude of different hills, didn't it, Brody? I mean, Flux Esports able to put themselves in certain positions to be able to find favorable gunfights, yeah, but it never really came through as a collective. What you even see there, the best play is Metals just goes on an absolute nuisance tear. 25 and 28 for them, but Journey, 32 and 28, being able to find continuous value will forever be the success call that we can keep talking about this Young Galactics roster. It's not always just all 4 of them, but it's one player that's creating a lot of space for the rest of them to then encroach forward and deny further map positioning away from whatever adversary that they're facing. That was not always relevant when we're talking about Flux Esports throughout the entirety of that hardpoint. A lot of individual plays able to find themselves 3 pieces, sure, but never collective as a 4-player team where they constantly always finding themselves superior map positioning to be able to really lock down initial time besides that P3 hill that we had in the first set.
Yeah, for sure. The difference between the 2 rosters there, definitely in terms of the team play. Let's take a look at the replays then for that map, of course. And it was a very strong start, you got to say, from Young Galactics. We come back into the replay package here where Flux Esports had been bringing it close. But you got to remember, right out the gate, Young Galactics, they looked unstoppable. I was very concerned, by the way, out the gate.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this was the potential to be able to be an absolute bust of a game for Flux Esports, but I mean, this is what the one thing that you and I were talking about when we were framing up this match, when we were talking about Flux Esports before we actually went live here with the broadcast, was that Flux Esports need to have an immediate turnaround. They need to be able to come back away from those 2 losses that they had, immediately study some VOD, and come back strong inside of some hard points, because we know their search is strong, but it's their hard points that are lacking, and it's going to be their hard points that are continuously going to be the boon of failure for them, if you will, Brody. They need to be able to find confidence. They need to be able to find these hard point maps, and they need to be able to close them out reliably if they want to be able to not only take series, but take series off these other Elite Stage 1 teams, no less.
Yeah, I think it's important to note as well, you know, we were talking about this again. We were kind of studying Flux's other matchups coming into day number 2. And they did have some close hardpoint maps. In those matches, they did end up losing in day number 1, right? So it's not like they are terrible. They do have the opportunity here to come back into the series. But now next up is the Search and Destroy. This is where things should be good for Flux Esports, right? You've got to imagine, because Search and Destroy is technically speaking their best game mode. We've spoken about this at length. They were able to take one off Moneyform not that long ago, earlier today. So now they go into Bacage, and well, I don't know. I think Bacage, you know, while we talk about Search and Destroy being a really good game mode overall for Flux Esports, it might actually well favor Young Galactics.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. We actually got to see how that looked like versus Revenge Tour, I do believe, in Moneyform yesterday for Young Galactics. Yeah, for both of them, actually. They played this 2 times at Young Galactics yesterday. They lost it to Revenge Tour in round 11, and that was when they won about, like, I don't know, like 3-4 rounds on the bounce. Versus Moneyform, no, they looked very reserved. They actually made this map feel quite big for itself. This is actually the first time that Flux Esports, through the Elite Season 1 in Europe, are playing a Bocage Search and Destroy. All 3 Search and Destroys that they played so far, Brody, have all been on Berlin. They've been able to win 2 of those. Of course, losing to Sucrees Bakery in a round 11 is definitely going to be a weight held over their head. But the 2 map wins, to the point that I brought up early, for the 11 maps that the Flux Esports have played overall for the Season 1 here of Europe Challengers Elite, they've been able to only win Search and Destroy so far. This needs to be a continued success for them. If they don't win this Bocage Search and Destroy, this very much so could be a hot 3-0.
Yeah, I fully agree with you, actually, and that really does to stress the importance of this map overall. Of course, Search and Destroy is their best go mode. They need to win this, Flux Esports. If not, the control might not be so nice for them, especially as we go over towards Tuscan. You know, we talk about Search and Destroy SMG pressure. Well, for control, probably going to see the same thing out even more in spades when we look over towards that Tuscan. You know, you've got players like Real and Journey causing problems on the map. That is horrible. That has been, I think, a problem for a multitude of teams early on in the season with all of the Challengers Cups that you and I got to cast over. You know, we saw how much of a problem that was for everybody. I think for them, they will be very confident going into that Tuscan. All they got to do is win the search and destroy. That being said, of course, looking at players to watch in this one, Snake, right? Definitely, we kind of spoke about this. He maybe is the player that Flux need to step up to the plate here.
2.10 overall KD in Search and Destroy on day one. That's absurd. Even in the maps that they were battling back and forth in between, Snake has always been that guy for this Flux Esports roster. On the other side, a player to watch out for, it's got to be Lucky. Now, every single point that we were kind of framing up, especially for Lucky yesterday in the Berlin Search and Destroys that we did see, that was actually done with the Car 98K, but Lucky is actually leading the entirety of this Young Galactics roster in overall KD, not just in Search and Destroy, but for all 3 game modes. And that is a scary stat to behold for itself, given how Lucky has played in previous titles, in previous games. It's one of those things that Lucky, again, is much more, I would not necessarily say the slowest, but plays a slower role, considering that they are that main AR for this team here of Young Galactics. But they had a 1.85 in Search and Destroy yesterday. Again, a lot of that work was done with the Car 98K on Berlin Search and Destroy, but on Bocage, they were always playing that anchoring role so wonderfully, holding those longer angles, never allowing flanks to come through from pesky SMGs.
Yeah, for sure, right? It's crazy because I think Vanguard is a very high-paced game, so you would imagine that Lucky maybe wouldn't have the best go at things, considering, you know, he's constantly going to be L-triggering. But I think Lucky's adapted really well to the overall pace of the game right now. He's definitely been able to adapt to pretty much every single team. Yesterday, of course, we saw him tested to pretty much his full extent, facing off against the top 2 teams in Money Form and Revenge Tour. They beat one, they lost to the other in a Game 5 round 11, and Lucky came out with a pretty good KD at the end of the day. But we're going to jumping into Search and Destroy on Bocage here. Young Galactics currently 1-0 up in the series, but again, this is Flux's best attempt at winning a map in this one. Can they get it done?
Expect a lot of mid-map pressure, a lot of A executes to come all the way through, unless you find immediate information. We saw this a lot from Young Galactics. Nice set nade coming through from Metals. That's actually going to clear out the B side itself. Gotta expect there's going to be a player over by the Willow Tree and up in the Dope Cop Tower. There is a player. The Young Galactics, they still want the B side.
Real going to draw things up here. Looks for a second against Sean. Will be denied. So now 3 versus 2, make it a 2 versus 1 as the trades just keep on falling. It is all down to Corey, making quite a lot of noise with the amount of doors he is slamming open. I think he has just been spotted out by Journey. Thought for a second there with how long Journey was L-triggering him. You could see it on the mini-map that he was probably going to go for the execution, but it didn't happen. Journey has enough, decides to take him out.
I love this call, and I love this play that ends up coming out from Young Galactics for their round 1 offense. Again, all off of Metals with those set nades. You and I were kind of losing our marbles when we were watching a lot of teams for a lot of the set nades that were able to be found specifically by Revenge Tour on this map mode combo yesterday. But even still, you were able to get those nerdy spots, able to find those timings. That first blood caused a lot of distractions, plus all the gunshots over by the Riverwalk allowed Real to just exist in the middle of the map, causing more distress. Now, Flux Esports almost attempting the same thing, but again, this is where you can make the map feel rather big for itself, just waiting for the defense to make it on force error.
Nice set nade coming in from Snake. We see a ton of those here on Bocage. Nicely done from Snake to advantage to Flux Esports early on in this one, and Real takes some shots through. It's actually going to be a trade of the kill here from both of those 2 players. Snake and Real take each other out of the play. Flux still come out on top at the end, though. 3 versus 2, and I think Young Galactics know they have to try and make the best of the situation, and Metals and Lucky. How about that for capitalization? They come round through the river, take down Sean and Corey. Now a 1v1 between 11 and Lucky. Bomb's still got to be retrieved as well for 11 in this particular situation. We'll go grab it. Now, Lucky, he's got himself all the way over towards that Willow Tree, Andy.
If you're Lucky here in this 1v1, you just play for the retake. I mean, you're in a prime position to be able to see if 11 ends up trying to cross this main road. 11 has so many angles they got to check, and yeah, that's that spot over by the Willow Tree. You see so many different rotations come all the way through, and you know, I had to go get my dustpan real fast because my jaw just absolutely smacked against the floor and shattered into many different pieces. How in the world did Lucky just get the timing and tracking to be able to find that kill through the door and through the shed like that? That's absolutely insane. Of course, doubling on up with Metals there at the end to be able to make that play a reality. So they end up pushing all the way through the Riverwalk. This is just really good search and destroy that's coming through from Young Galactics. Again, not letting Flux Esports get away with anything that they're looking for off their nades and off of the early shots that are being found as well.
Sun's going out to mid. Flux, look at this, coming out from them right out the gate. They want to get aggressive. Young Galactics more than ready for it. It was a brave move, I think, at the start of this round, but it doesn't really work out, to be honest.
No, and I'm sitting here scratching my head because I always get really confused as to what teams are trying to look for when they're just trying to bulldoze their way through the middle of the map. Look, the offense will get to the barn first. That kind of makes sense with where you spawn in as a defensive team. If you try to get Mixie in the middle of the map, that looks more like a frustration technique more than anything, because you're just kind of running into the line of sights of this Young Galactics roster, who, again, are not playing aggressive search and destroy here on Bocage. They're playing reactionary search and destroy off their stuns, off their nades. You give them easy gunfights like that, yeah, you're going to topple over.
Young Galactics having a great search and destroy here. This isn't quite, I think, how Flux imagined this would go. They need to start spinning their wheels up pretty soon. If not, this game will run away from them. Sean with the bomb in hand. What can he do? 11 has picked up a kill. Right out the gate here against Metals. That should give them some form of advantage. However, he has to be careful. Look at Journey, man. He's just crawling forward before he finally jumps out. Journey with a second as well. Oh my goodness. Journey has turned this round on its head. Needed it super slowly as well.
Just armor crawling their way, and Journey's going to find the third. Now, Corey's going to be able to take down Real. And Journey's going to actually see him up top on Granny. He's going to try to reposition. Does he see him again? Doesn't even give his teammate the ace. I mean, that's just rude at the end of the day. Look, Journey made that play happen. Definitely deserved the ace there at the end. Come on, what are we doing, Young Galactics? Going to be lucky just kind of taking it away. I mean, nice pistol shots regardless, but this is the Journey, hey, that we know and love. You know, you come away from the Cold War season, you go back to even previous titles, even before MW 2019. Journey has always been that player, that SMG out of Spain that can make those plays happen, Brody, that feels quite confident in themselves, that if they know that they got the better gunny, they're going to be able to make those very methodical plays. Again, just slow rolling their way on their belly up through the staircase. Can't exactly be too comfortable for the player, but still able to make it work for themselves as Young Galactics now have 4 rounds in a row, 2 more to close out the search and destroy, and they're splitting it on north to south here on Bocage.
Young Galactics want a flawless Bocage. I'll be able to find it here. 11 on the other side of this wall, though. Not a chance. Journey with the MP40, just a little bit better. 11 falls out of the round. That bomb has made its way into this A site. No further advantage just yet here, Andy. Even the odds are actually traded out here as Snake will take down Real, but that bomb goes down.
Bomb's going to go down. Now you got to retake this site. Going to have a lot of players holding in a lot of different corners. Metals is in a great spot to see if anybody comes back from that head glitch on the backside of the tank. Journey is 1 kill away from a glide bomb. So is Lucky. Metals is going to get the information. Then Slide Chow's wonderfully played out. Now Corey in a 1v3.
We can take one of these players down. It's huge. Go for the second as well. There's a 2-piece. But he does give that final kill. I believe that was Journey. He managed to grab it towards the end. It was definitely one of the players who was 1 kill away from a glide bomb. Good attempt from Corey, to be fair, to get as close as he did.
Oh, no, Journey's actually going to get the last kill. So now Journey's on a 5, plus the bomb plan as well. Definitely going to be at least the glide bomb achieved there for Journey. A resource in the back pocket while you're already up on map point. Oh, you got to feel rather frustrated if you are Flux Esports. Just for the ferocity that Young Galactics just came flying in towards that ace site. I mean, that should have been an easy gunfight. 11 was on his belly, but Journey just playing a little diffy right now, isn't he? Glide bomb has been achieved. It's going to quickly bust through a hole and pull the doors. Flux Esports, they are sprinting in towards the site.
On the angle, Journey is found there looking through the window. Hi, he says, and bye just as quickly as well as Metals and Journey combine for 2. Add that to a third to the pile. Snake left in the 1 versus 4. This would be a miraculous recovery for Snake here, but he is being toyed with at the moment. These players actually going to give him a free kill, but there we go. Finally, someone ends the pain and suffering as Young Galactics cause quite a lot of it there. 6-0 Young Galactics. That's a hot search and destroy victory.
Your number 1 seed, everybody, for European Challengers Elite Season 1, by the way. And, yeah, you know, this is just that thing that we kept on hinting at continuously. You're the number 1 seed. What does that mean? It means that you not only are going to be able to be pretty darn stellar in the respawns, it was good fundamental practice coming out from Young Galactics inside that Berlin hardpoint, but even better practice coming in towards that Bocage search and destroy. We talked about how they got a lot of pushback, again, that round 11 versus money form on Berlin search and destroy. Back and forth, they're 1-1 on Bocage, now 2-1, being able to 6-0 Flux Esports on this map mode combo.
And now you're exactly looking at the turnaround. Clearly, they went back and studied some VOD for themselves. As we take a look at the best of 5 series here for ourselves, Brody, that Bocage Search and Destroy was quite telling, and it looked very, very different. I know that it's different adversaries comparatively to what they look like versus Revenge Tour and Moneyform yesterday, comparatively to what Flux Esports are able to bring to the table, but nice pattern aggression coming through on a lot of those hits. The commitments were all there. Every single offense had a meaning. The set nades, the information, and what they meant to be able to deny the space from Flux Esports continuously, dealing with them on all different corners of the map.
It wasn't good. I think that's the only thing I can say about that.
Oh, it's good for Young Galactics.
Oh,
okay.
Oh,
right.
yeah, for sure. If you're, I'm sure there are a lot of Young Galactics fans in the chat. There always are. They've got a huge fan base behind them, of course, a really popular team, and they'll be very happy with the fact that was a 6-0. Flux, I think less so now because they're facing down the barrel of a 3-0. They go into Tuscan control, as we said. I think this map just favors Young Galactics so heavily. You think about the SMG pressure they have on the team, of course. You've got Journey playing alongside Royale. You've got Metals who can also pull out that SMG. I mean, hell, Lucky could do it as well, to be fair. I mean, all 4 of these players, you put any weapon in their hands, and they're probably going to sweep majority teams out of the way. That said, I think this team, their sub-pressure, it's overwhelming. I wouldn't be surprised if they won this. That said, I mean, look, we've had a ton of surprises so far this season in Challengers. We're only 2 days in, by the way, to Season 1 of Challengers Elite. I wouldn't want to catch these guys out. I wouldn't want to put them out of the game just yet because, look, for all I know, they could come out, they could win this control.
They could. Now I have a parody of a conflict of interest for you now, Brody. You remember the reverse sweep that I was talking about versus Revenge Tour yesterday out of Young Galactic's back pocket? Typically when you start a reverse sweep, it's got to start after losing the first 2 maps, and here in Vanguard, control is that map mode combo. For map number 3, it started on a Tuscan control, of which this team of Young Galactics were able to win back-to-back rounds. The offense came down to the absolute wire. And to be completely honest with you, for this Young Galactics roster on this map mode combo, they've only given up that single round on the map mode throughout Season 1 here of European Challengers Elite. So, it's something could be done. Some damage might be able to be found for Flux Esports, but even historically, statistically, I love my numbers here, Brody. It's not looking too good for Flux Esports. The one time that they did end up playing this yesterday was against the Originals. They went 2-3. Obviously, going to a round 5 is what you're probably going to be able to see more often than not. But they are also coming off of a Tuscan control loss versus Moneyform in their first match of the day, 3-1. So a total of 3 rounds being taken versus a total of 2 rounds being given up. Kind of like my odds in the Young Galactic side.
Yeah, and we talk about that control that we saw yesterday on Tuscan for this Young Galactic side versus Revenge Tour. It was the confidence that really kind of shook Revenge Tour to their core. Just the team play that we've seen out of Young Galactics is what's benefited them so far in this season so heavily in those Challengers Cups during all of the respawn game modes, even to an extent, even though it's kind of weaker, because we've always commented on the fact that we wanted to see improved Search and Destroy gameplay coming out of this Young Galactics roster. Even in Search and Destroy, their team play has stood above a number of rosters in those early Challengers Cups. I think versus Flux, they shouldn't have any problem here playing aggressive. Hell, we just saw it in the Search and Destroy. When these guys get rolling, when they get confident and they really start to become in sync with one another, it is a problem. And really the question for me is, are Flux going to be able to put a stop to that? Because that's what we said. This is the key to victory for them. Somebody needs to step up, shut down Young Galactics before they even get any momentum in their favor. They have failed to do that so far, although they got close in the hardpoint. I think that maybe is the only light in the darkness for this series so far for Flux, is that they actually made the hardpoint a pretty close affair. And hey, look, although the respawns are not all that alike, of course, Control is a very different game mode at the end of the day to hardpoint. They are still, at the end of the day, respawn game modes, and there is still an opportunity here for Flux Esports to have that same level of contention as they did in the hardpoint.
Yeah, and to go back to a lot of those bright points that we were talking about on that Berlin hardpoint from Flux Esports, talking about how one player needs to step up, 11 was that player that was trying to create a lot of space that needs to be then kind of taken by the rest of the players. If 11 is causing a lot of distress with the Automaton in hand, Sean, Snake, and Corey, they need to be able to capitalize off of the damage that 11 is being found. Every single kill matters when you're taking a look at the tail of the tape between these two teams. Galactics, they're able to find a lot more value in putting themselves in an advantage state. When they do find those handful of kills, they deny so much more map positioning away from Flux Esports, especially on that Berlin hardpoint. Yeah, it got close off of barring a few heroics, but team play alone needs to be the boon of success when it comes down to Control. You're very right to call out those stark differences.
we shall see whether or not Flux Esports can have a good start here. They're going to start on the defense. So technically speaking, you know, they are an advantage as we kick off this control. That being said, moving into this one, Flux Esports. And they put a stop to Young Galactics right at the gate. They absolutely can. Wave of kills coming on through, Andy, and that's a pretty good start.
Oh, it's pretty, yeah, great start, actually. They only give up 2 lives so far, starting off on the favorite side for Tuscan Control, getting that defense side first. Young Galactics, quick off the bounce, though, able to recognize, hey, A didn't work out. Let's just flood over towards B, see if we can stop that clock.
Indeed, straight over towards B they go. Flux Esports trying to defend this point for now. Sean, trying to defend this point for now. Sean getting in from behind. Corey looking forward to. Have removed both Journey and Metals from the point now. Lucky going to fall as well. That is a good push here from Flux Esports. And now Snake on a fight spree as well. One more kill. He gets that strafing run. Glide bomb already in the back pocket. Would be huge if he could do it. Of course, streaks will be paramount for Flux on the offense later down the line. But they will be pushed away for now. Young Galactics have another go at this.
Able to at least mitigate the damage that was found over by that B zone, but not fully depleting that progress. And Young Galactics, again, this is what we talked about last season when they were underneath a handful of different monikers for us, Brody. You know, they had a really good control, and that reasoning and understanding is the fundamental of the game mode. Not finding success over by A, let's push over towards B, cause all of Flux Esports to then resurface themselves over towards that B site just to be able to defend it, and then they're able to put themselves over at A. 40 seconds remaining, now a 3-life lead as Journey finds a nice little 2-piece. This should be the A zone completely conceded for Flux Esports, and 60 seconds added on the board.
Lucky already pushed pretty far up here. I'm not too sure whether or not that one Flux player, Snake, is aware of it. I think, really, regardless, Snake will be ready for the fight, and there it is. Snake able to take down one. Journey looking to try and get the trade on through, and Snake will be well aware of the fact he has jumped out, but it's not enough as Journey's MP40 just a little bit better in that position. On the other side of the play, you've got Real starting to pressurize, looking for 2. He will find it, and now both of those players going to win their respective engagements here, Andy. This is a good setup.
It absolutely is a fantastic setup. But here's the thing, is that nobody's really pushing to get a little bit more forward positioning. A little bit late off the go, and well, that means that Lucky's going to be able to find that very easy kill onto Sean. Real's at a prime spot as well to be able to know that there's going to be a player towards radio. That's going to be 11 who has to keep their life for now, while the rest of the reinforcements for Young Galactics are trying to work their way through the middle of the map. But still, the clock is going to be stalled out. Someone needs to deal with Real over by the zone, Brody.
Indeed they do. Real is still in this position, looking for some more kills, and that's 4 in a row. Somebody gives him 5. There's a glide bomb with zone. Remember, Snake already has one. Can Real get it? Yes, he can. That's a glide bomb. Now looking for the strafing run. If he gets it, it's a nice little padding already to what he has in his back pocket. 9 versus 4. This is a great opening on the offense. One of those offensive rounds, rare ones, that might well not go down to time. Real pressurizing the point. Journey also here. Somebody from Flux kind of has to move because the progress is now being made. Something has to give. Corey not going to move for whatever reason. Now has pushed forward. Real looking for this fight. Will actually lose it. Corey picks up 2. And for now, Flux have a moment to breathe. But still, look here, Andy. 11, Corey. They're the last 2 players left alive. Now it is just the latter. A 1 versus 6. 35 seconds here.
Oh.
And, well, there it is. Just like that, Young Galactics. And that's a huge, huge opening.
Yeah, I was going to say they had some room to breathe, but not all of them are breathing at that current point in time, Brody. Hey, you know, that life advantage was surely going to be held. And what Young Galactics were relentless in always doing is making sure that there was always at least one player stopping the clock. You will hear us as commentators, analysts, and overall enjoyers of Call of Duty as a whole when it comes down to control, talking about stopping that clock. It is the success that you get in making sure that you always have time left to play, to whittle down the lives, give yourself that advantage by any means necessary. That's what Young Galactics do so well. Journey double positive through that first round. Definitely was able to influence a lot through the middle of the map, but for Flux Esports off this offense, get a really good look at this A zone early, Brody. They stack it. That's a quick 60 seconds on the board.
Indeed it is, although that's pretty common, you know. I don't want to take away from Flux. Okay, all right, Young Galactics, you do your thing, guys. Don't worry about it. You know, I don't want to take away from Flux Esports in this position, but of course, you know, A is technically the easier point to take. It's taking B that really is going to make all the difference to this round. And mind you, they do need to win this round as well. They can't really afford to let this one fall by the wayside, and maybe they have a secret weapon to get what they want. It's Snake, who has got through. Can he be as venomous as his name might well suggest? Does he fall foul? Yes, he does. Snake still playing his life, but the problem for Snake here, Andy, his teammates are still falling over towards Command Center.
Oh, but Snake can keep finding all this pressure from behind. Actually get some timing. No, Journey's gonna drop. Gonna be able to take that player down, but was it enough time and space provided? Now you got Sean in the back. Metal's gonna clean them up. You would have loved, to your point there, Brody, that while Snake is doing all of that in the back in the spawn of Young Galactics, for the rest of the teammates of Flux to be able to find value as they're pushing through the roofing, through the map, through the middle of the map as well. And Young Galactics, again, are just annoying, aren't they, as far as a defensive team here? It's almost feeling like they're constantly playing offense. They slow up a little bit, waiting for the hit to finally come through. But even with Real going down over 5 Vines, that's all the information they need to know. Flux Esports, they're trying to play for the spawn.
Trying. They've only got 2 players over there, Snake and Corey. Can they even win the fight? Snakes will go down. It is just Corey now left up. Real gonna deal with him pretty quickly here. Young Galactics, they look relatively relaxed. They continue to push forward, push the issue. Flux don't really have much of a say in the matter whatsoever. They're going to try and attempt this one as a foursome now. All of them back off the respawn. But Metals looking to play spoiler. Comes in from behind. Deals with 1 player. Backs off towards command center. It's just a consistent damaging time and time again here. There is 30 seconds on the clock. Flux Esports sent back to the respawn point. And while they've got a long way to go.
Yeah, and there's going to be 1 more player cutting them down. Okay, Sean, going to slide cancel, take down Journey. 15 seconds remaining. They got to be able to find these kills and get on that B zone to be able to stop the clock. But got a lot of players for Young Galactics that are trying to be in the way for you to be able to do so. Now it's just up to Sean. They're going to be cut down. 5 seconds remaining. And it's just up to Corey to try to get towards the zone. They're already a handful of bullets trying to get their way over to it. Brody won't even get the chance. And Young Galactics, again, when it comes down to the defensive setup that they're looking for, they're just so proactive. When there's 3 players back in the spawn, the player that is pushed up first and foremost, I don't speak Spanish. I would love to hop in the comms regardless, but what the arrows look like on the mini-map is the player that's pushed up first and foremost then becomes that player to be able to work their way into the spawn and try to cut down as many players on the rotation coming back towards that B zone as much as humanly possible. Sometimes it doesn't always go their way. Sometimes they go 1 for 1. But being able to soak up so much time away from the game clock to allow Flux Esports to even have a chance to get over towards that B zone, that's just really good fundamental control coming out of Galactics as the defense.
Well, 1 more round of control, and Young Galactics will do it. Now, of course, they've got to do another offensive round, so don't be surprised if they don't do it here. That being said, that's a pretty good start right out the gate. They're able to get a full wave of kills in their favor, Randy, and it continues as well as the party will go on. You've got players over towards B. Lucky just won both gunfights, by the way, against 11 and Snake over towards A. The kill feed is completely blue. You know, Andy, it's times like these where I love being a play-by-play because you're just constantly calling out kills for Young Galactics.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, they are not stopping. Metals is now on a 7, fully streaked out of their eyeballs, and well, it's looking quite good for Young Galactics. That A zone is slowly going to be gained. It's only 1 player is lucky that's over there soaking up the last bit of it. There's that 60 seconds finally coming through. 4 kills to the 14 that were found off the opening rip there. Young Galactics with a hefty life advantage, but still got to work your way towards the B zone. 11's in a prime spot up top first to be able to look towards the middle of the map, trying to read where the rest of the hit from Young Galactics are coming from.
Whole 2 minutes on this clock, a whole set of streaks to work with as well. I'm probably going to go ahead and presume they've got even more in the back pocket given the score lines, and here we go. It's going to be Real who brings his streak down onto Snake. Of course, we did see him get that strafing run earlier on, so that will be huge. He still has that ready to go, but it will give the space now for Young Galactic to break on through. Journey and Lucky. How much damage can they do? 11 comes and takes one of them out. Of course, Snake the other one as well. Good clearance coming in from Flux, and now they have to position correctly.
Yeah, they have to be able to position themselves so where they can cut down a handful of players. You're mostly just playing off of Corey, who is that lurking player over by maps. Sean's tasked with dealing with these players inside of church. Does have some help, but second to 11 tries to get inside the doorway. Journey just rock bottoms him through the floorboard, so definitely a frustrating point to be in, but nice little turn from Sean. In the pit over towards maps, Corey cannot withstand for too much longer. It's 18v9, double the amount of lives in favor of the offense.
Galactics just continue to belittle Flux here on the offense. It seems like a carbon copy of what happened in round number 1. There are just 6 lives now left up for Flux. Lucky continues his spree as he now picks up another 2. He's had an incredible game. Can Real put a full stop on this one? An exclamation point as well. He's certainly making the argument for it, but Snake now is going to use that glide bomb. We saw him earn at the very beginning of this control. It is just 3 players, though. This would be a monumental moment in early Call of Duty Vanguard if this 3 versus 14 was to become a reality. Technically speaking, all Flux need to do is win 2 waves of gunfights. But of course, Young Galactics will take their time with this one.
Oh, yeah. You can Could you imagine? Got a 10 life lead, and Flux Esports forced to go to another round. Again, you just got to win a handful more gunfights, and Snake is really doing a good job of just shutting this down. Now Sean try to take down this player that's in from behind. Snake does go down, 12v2.
Sean and Corey left up. Sean, 1 versus 11, and I'm not talking about the player. It's just now Real, Lucky, and Metals left up, and Sean will end up falling. Young Galactics, the pressure will boil over for Flux. They 3-0 in the control, 3-0 in the series, and that is an indomitable scoreline as well. You know, we talk about offensive wins on Tuscan control. How about that? We see 2 of them from Young Galactics.
Dominance coming out from your first seed of the Season 1 of Challengers Elite. That is what you almost would expect to a certain point in time when you are thinking about these 2 teams on paper, right, Brody? Because, I mean, Young Galactics, you know, they obviously did not want to start 1-1. They faced probably arguably the 2 hardest teams within Season 1 here for European Challengers yesterday, and they had to have gone to immediately look at the VOD last night. Either between themselves, I'm not even too sure if they have a coach that's working with them right now. Someone reach out to me on Twitter if they do, because they are doing a fine job with these guys on this Young Galactics roster. If they're not, then it's just tippable to say the least, because this team of Young Galactics, again, we talked about it, the core 3, former Team War, former every other team that they went with under going back from Cold War, they've been doing it for a long time together. In Real, again, coming in freshly 18, first Challenger season, fits like a glove. It's just seamless being able to see what they are able to do with their SMG duo of Journey, who's having themselves quite the day, keep in mind you, but when that's all said, it's just a pace difference. That's why we kept on highlighting, like, somebody needs to step up from Flux. Somebody needs to be able to meet the pace for Young Galactics. And even when they were slowing down the pace, Young Galactics were completely content with conceding space and then flanking it all the way through. I mean, they gave up that A zone on their only defense that they played so early. They lost the 2 kills in the middle of the map. They said, okay, well, the flank play didn't work. Let's just hold the B zone for the next 2.5 minutes. And it works, because they're just constantly berating the opposite side of the map, making sure that they are playing that very progressive style of control, even on defense. The communication looks good from Young Galactics. They're looking in tip-top shape here in week number 1.
Yeah, well, let's take a look at the final maps then for that series. A hot 3-0 for Young Galactics, 250 to 204 in that Berlin hardpoint. Of course, it was a strong start from them, and just a little bit too much for the Flux Esports roster to overcome. But the Search and Destroy, that was the real moment in this series where it really looked like Flux Esports were out of their depth. Young Galactics 6-0 there. That confidence, of course, followed through then into the Tuscan control, where they are going to 3-0. Young Galactics, a 3-0 overall to close out week number 1. They'll be very, very happy with that. But of course, given the fact that this was a 3-0, that means there's still other matches going on right now. And Andy, I think it's probably a good idea if we go over towards another one that's going on right now. United Nations going head-to-head with TM Team. I believe this is Team Money Team or something like that. Or I don't know. It's like a reference to a boxer. I think it's like Floyd Mayweather. I'm not entirely sure. They're obviously fans. Regardless, this should be a really interesting matchup.
Yeah, and currently, as it does stand, United Nations are actually leading the series 2-1. The Bocage hardpoint went in TMT's favor. Hear this for a scoreline: 250 to 176. Bocage Search and Destroy ended up coming down to round 11, but the Tuscan control did just conclude for those 2 teams, of which United Nations were able to win 3-0. So one more map away for United Nations to be able to close out that best of 5 series, and they're going to be able to immediately bounce back after they got 3-0'd by Young Galactics as well. It wasn't just you, Flux Esports. United Nations also got 3-0'd by Young Galactics as well.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, let's take a moment to talk about these teams while we wait for that next map to get underway, right? Because they are 2 very different teams. I think the conversation we probably should start with is United Nations, right? Because this roster, they came together, and Cup number 3, they didn't actually play in the first 2 Cups where points weren't available. They only played Cups number 3 and 4 where points were. They came out of the gate swinging, by the way. In their very first cup, they took down Moneyform. They are basically the sole reason why that roster had to make a change. Of course, dropping Denzer down to Revenge Tour, and then, of course, Beans jumping up to that team to make an improvement. But that was a great debut for the roster. Then they, of course, unfortunately followed that up with top 8 placement in Cup number 4. So a little less impressive, but nonetheless, I think that first Cup place performance from them and in third, whatever it was, you know, I think that proves that these guys, at the very least, have the ability to take down some top teams.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when you're thinking about it, just one player will constantly just stand out for me. I mean, you talk about what Jordan was able to do through a multitude of different regions. They were playing in North America last year under a team called Easter, able to find a lot of success through later elite stages. Whalers has always been a mainstay as a player when it comes down to top Call of Duty players here in Europe. Henry is also right there as well, always trying to make the argument for their position inside the league. But Abuse is going to be that young buck for me. You know, when we talk about Abuse as a whole, had a breakout season last year during Cold War, didn't exactly find themselves as a team that they could necessarily dominate with, having some pretty consistent placings. But now with this roster here with Henry, Jordan, Whalers, this is a great veteran roster for Abuser to find themselves in to really make an impact on the scene.
Yeah, absolutely. Abuser is going to be the player to watch for me on this roster for sure. Before we talk about TMT, let's take a look at the map set then. For this one, of course, you guys have already seen and heard how the series has gone so far, but here's a little recap for you guys at home. Of course, TMT started the series very strong with that 250 to 176 point victory on Bocage Hardpoint. Then we went back to Bocage for map number 2, a round 11 victory for United Nations there, and that 3-0 on Tuscan Control, a strong showing from United Nations that gives them the 2-1 series advantage. But TMT, you know, they won map and won Hardpoint. They could well do it on Gavutu, but that's a very different map. I think much more AR orientated.
Oh, it absolutely will. And when you're thinking about this as a whole, I mean, you would have to assume that this would favor TMT as a whole. I mean, just think about this roster. Connor, Chaxter, Maple, and Wardy. This is a roster, if you did not catch any information away from the Elite Qualifier leading into this Season 1 of the Elite, that was the upset of the entire bracket. They beat Revenge Tour to qualify themselves in the upper bracket, Brody. And that, I know you feel the same way, but I just got to exclaim it for everybody that's watching the broadcast. It's a massive upset for themselves as we take a look at TMT as a whole for this roster. Again, you see right there, upset Revenge Tour in the Elite Qualifier. They need to be able to find themselves any sort of form of consistency. Being 0-3 as it currently stands, again, losing out in their opening series on the day for us, Brody, is not going to be in a great spot to be in. But again, just having those 3 losses, with the way that things are shaken up, a win right here, if they can win this Gavutu Hardpoint and force out that Tuscan Search and Destroy, it would be pretty big as far as the standings are concerned.
Yeah, for sure. And as you say, you know, we're talking about TMT overall here. We can see them on screen. That's BB, Connor, Chaxter, Maple, and Wardy. Maple is technically the newest addition to this roster. He comes down from the kind of the Ponder Replay roster that imploded after, I think it was Cup number 2. And Maple, I think, is a worthy addition to this team. You know, they started out playing the season with Runner. Now Maple is on the squad. And Maple has always been an extremely good player. And I'm excited to see what he can do now that he's back with Connor, Chaxter, and Wardy. Let's look at the team profile then for United Nations. Or never mind, actually, we're going to jump straight into the game. I lied, guys. I'm sorry. We're not going to look at the United Nations once again. The game is about to get underway here, of course. Jumping over to Gavutu for Hardpoint. I'm excited to get into this one.
Oh, man, so am I. It's going to be quite telling to be able to see what these two rosters can offer for us here, Brody. There's a lot of ARs on both sides, to be quite honest with you. They could find a lot of value, but again, I lean towards the flexes. What are they going to be able to do? Flexes on this map, being able to pick up that third automaton, can definitely make or break a lot of setups, can definitely get you a lot of time.
Indeed it can. We'll see now how this kind of head-to-head goes, of course. Ignore the overlay at the very top of the screen. It is not Young Galactics going head with Flux Esports. This is, of course, TMT going head-to-head with United Nations. 2-1 are United Nations. Let's see how they get on right now. In control of the hardpoint, you've got Whalers on the beach with this automaton. The AR play for this man should be pretty good, I think, in terms of making sure they keep control of this hill, and Whalers living up to that right away on this beach.
He heard you, Brody. He's like, yeah, my AR play is going to absolutely live up to the understanding that Whalers has been one of the most consistent, if not better, ARs that we've been able to see here in European Challenger scene. But not being able to lock down the rotation, going over towards 2, that's going to be quite felt. You can see TMT with their current setup. They got players up on top LST, but a little bit late to be able to read the spawns. But players that's still open by ring, that's going to be Chaxter. Is able to find at least one, helping out their teammates that are over by the boat, trying to deal with the hit when it comes through.
Maple on this rotation from TMT. They want to push the issue as well, and Chaxter's going to do exactly that as he pushes over towards the rock side. Nice 2-piece from him. That's his 5th kill in a row. Will be denied the 6th. Fan as such the strafing run, but the glide bomb has been earned. Keep that towards the back of your mind, folks, especially as you go forward in this game, because Gavutu is going to be a map which that glide bomb will be very useful on.
Yeah, a lot of open hardpoints, right? I think the only hardpoint that isn't open, you got some Sanctuary inside the rig for one, if you could even say that, and maybe even the boat, but you can see right in front where Wardy's looking. It does have a little bit of an opening on top of it. Nice shots coming through from Wardy again, being able to lock down a lot of these different angles. Going to be Abusa on the end of that mid-street to be able to cut them down. Solid start here for TMT, just about about like 25, 30 points or so over top of their adversaries, closer to now 40 as they're soaking up the last bit of the scrap time. But you got to take a look at the rotation. TMT, they still have players on top LSC, and with Chaxter going down over by Ring, they know that it's going to be a little bit of a delay until United Nations can even get over here.
Well, here comes Whaler's streak that he earned earlier on. He wants to take BB Connor out of the play, and that will give United Nations a bit of breathing room as they try to move TMT from the spawns. Nonetheless, though, it's going to be a streak right back coming in from Chaxter to take down Jerd. Whalers now has to use this automaton to win these gunfights around the back. Maple able to take him down. Nobody in control of the hill right now. Now Jerd, what can he do about this one? Of course, that SMG player coming over from North America for a couple of seasons. Now he's back in EU. Not going to win that gunfight, unfortunately, for him. And now TMT going to soak up the scrap.
Yeah, a lot of time had to be given up. Again, when you're calling in the glide bomb, you're really just hoping that the rest of the teammates for UN are going to be able to at least capitalize off the position that it's going to be provided for yourself. But nobody was really in a position to get in the backside of the docks building, to get in towards that boat that houses that P3 hill. The streak just kind of goes by the wayside. Now TMT will be battling a little bit uphill, if you can even say that. They have a 70-point lead over UN, who need to desperately make this P4 hill a strong one.
A lot of streak investment coming out here from TMT. We just saw Chaxter use his glide bomb. Now Maple is going to invest his. I think TMT want to kind of crush United Nations early on in this one, really build a lot of momentum. That would be hard to come back from. Maple runs right into the line of sight of Abuser, who's able to take him down. Abuser plays his life perfectly as well. BB Connor, what can he do? Gets the first fight against Henry. Abuser gets dealt with by Wardy. This is a really nice collapse coming through from TMT. They win all of their individual gunfights, and this last 25 seconds should be theirs.
No, and it absolutely will be, because we're looking at this from UN's perspective. They need to be in for initial, and they need it to be a sufficient hold as well. So in towards 5, they will go. Got players at least looking towards Ring. This battle over top of LSC will be a massive gunfight, of which Jerd is able to come out on top of. Favorable gunfights coming through for United Nations, while the rest of the scrap time is going to be coming through for TMT. With this lead, you're going to have a massive advantage for TMT. You can always battle for the scrap. You can always try to keep it contested. You can always be a nuisance, a thorn in the side, if you will, for United Nations, as they constantly being set up, which is why you're just always seeing them invest the streaks once they get them.
Jerd able to pick up 2 inside the hard point. TMT is still fighting from the back line here. They want to continue to control those spawns. This is a lot of time you don't, realistically speaking, want to give away. Chaxter once again starting to put a spree together. 3 in a row. There's an opportunity for a 4th and a 5th. He does get the former. Will he get the latter, though? Not even getting the opportunity, as the rest of his teammates going to pick up the kills around Wardy on top of the boat. Reads the spawns perfectly. Realizes as they have control of that side of the map that more likely than not, United Nations going to be spawning over by the Radio Shack, and they might want to stay there, put out a call for SOS at the moment, because TMT are having a hell of a game.
Oh, yeah, they are. I mean, 100-point difference plus some extra there at the end, as Connor is just finessing, almost able to take one more down with the rat pistol. Maple will be there to get the final laugh, but yeah, 120-point lead going in towards the second set of hills, and to my point that I was talking about leading into P5, TMT can continue to play this game. They can try to go for these very weird in attempts for breaks. They end up finding it to be able to flip out the spawns to the backside of the customs building, and then they completely keep United Nations spawning over by P4. Now into P1 yet again, trying to battle their way through. Is United Nations sufficient amount of kills will be coming their way, and at the end of it, they will be able to at least get the space provided for now. 30 seconds to let the battle over here on P1, and this seems to be the step in the right direction for a second set out of UN.
Indeed it does. Get this scrap time, make that rotation over towards New, and you'll be right back into this game. You just need some streaks as well. I say that so easily, right? You just need some streaks, but I think that's just so important on a map such as Gavutu that, realistically speaking, it would help them if they were to go for it. Of course, Abuser maybe starting to put one together here. You can see him now on a 4 spree. Henry also over here to help on this new rotation. One player close proximity. Chaxter has climbed the ladder. He's now on top of the boat to cause all sorts of problems. Abuser did actually end up picking up that 5th kill, so a glide bomb now in the play for United Nations. They will orchestrate and run if they can get it. And Abuser's going to use this streak straight away to try and alleviate some of the pressure inside the hard point. It will actually help, so it's a pretty good usage of the streak. And now TMT, though, not in control, but they do have control of the boathouse.
Yep, it's exactly all of that, right? I mean, I do really respect that streak that did come through from United Nations, right? You already have players inside of P2. Henry also finds 3. It's this position right here. Has a good look at Chaxter, but they were already weak from a previous engagement. But you still have players that are able to recycle out that positioning from top LSC. That streak that comes through from Abuser will constantly give them a lot more space, provided that they can stay alive inside the hardpoint, which they do phenomenally. 20 seconds less remaining here just down to the scrap of scrap time. And United Nations making a very good argument from 1 to 2. They've only given up a total of 9 points so far, Brody, and they're able to bounce back considerably. Again, diminishing the lead here just to about 4.
Well, now for one of the hardest hills to take here, even in Call of Duty Vanguard. You've got to try and take the tank. You've got to try and take those back spawns. If not, TMT will continue to replenish themselves. The garrison will basically continue to arrive. But Wardy picks up 2 kills. Jordan Henry try to put a stop to those spawns for a TMT. And now Abuser just going to sit on the other side of this tank. Doesn't have any cover though, so he's going to have to do this all on his lonesome. And he can do it all on his lonesome. Picks up 2. Brings this all down to Maple. The spawns will flip now for United Nations. Maple though, still alive. I was going to say still alive for a second there, but Jordan lands a nice nade and will take him out of the play.
That's a big hill to be able to find for themselves. I mean, if you can constantly just cycle out players for TMT, where they've been able to lock down long-range engagements for themselves, could be more streaks on the table for themselves. But again, United Nations doing a great job at least keeping this hill contested for the time being. We'll have those close spawns for at least another go of things, but now we're down to 15 seconds. This is when you need to start focusing on the rotation. United Nations are still technically spawning in for P3 just behind those customs building, and Wardy's going to be in a great spot, but they lose the timing. Players are already slipping the net past LST. Henry will communicate that Wardy is still behind them, and they don't even turn around. Wardy finds another free kill from behind. This allows the entire team of TMT to get set up from 4.
TMT, they could close it out here. United Nations, you got to break in right now. The roaming automaton player of Maple causing all sorts of problems, or Wardy, sorry, causing all sorts of problems. We'll pick up a couple of kills before finally falling. United Nations starting to put some cracks here in the defensive line of TMT, but they have to make those cracks even wider. Right about now, Wardy going to bring his streak down to try and take down one player. He will do that against Henry. Now Chaxter inside. What can he do to try and waste some time so that his teammates can come for the help? You've got United Nations spawning in the backline, and while all this is going on, that wave of kills might well have put a full stop on this game. TMT walk away with a victory, and they're putting us into game number 5.
Big plays coming out from TMT, and it really just felt like they came out of the spawn, going into P1. The first set of rotations like a bat out of hell, didn't they, bro? I mean, they are just completely outpace all of United Nations through that first set of hills. What was it? Somewhere near absurd, like 110-point difference going in towards the second set. Now, keep in mind, there was a solid argument that was made for United Nations to be able to bounce back, but to be able to play back from such a deficit when you're already playing against the angles and the timings, and I can only imagine the frustrations as well that were the early goings of that hard point through the first set of hills for United Nations. They were battling against streaks. They were battling against angles that TMT were just constantly finding for themselves. And it comes down to that point that I was talking about. When they had that lead, TMT understood what they had to do. That is just clinical hardpoint. We got ourselves a sufficient lead, even if it's at the 30-second margin, or even beyond that, which TMT did, and in fact having, that they can just constantly berate. If they get themselves those streaks, they can just call them in, keep all of United Nations off of the hardpoints themselves, and keep soaking up scrap time because they knew that it's UN that needed it more.
Yeah, absolutely. To be fair, the UN, that was a good comeback from them. They almost made it possible, but it didn't work out in the end. And we are going to be going to a game 5. Before we get there, though, let's take a look at the replays of 4 of that one. It was a hot start coming in from TMT. That being said, I mean, we had this opening start from Whalers where he looks really promising. He did get that streak early on off the back of that beach play, but it was from this hard point where TMT really started to look dominant. Not only did they do well off the back of this hard point, they put together streaks, and that really, I think, set the tone for this game.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when you're just finding tons of value with the AR presence that TMT had, I mean, Chaxter flexing back and forth, whether it was being picked up off the ground, but once they had that MP40, whether it was the second or even just the standalone SMG for TMT, just I call for you to constantly just look at Chaxter through the entirety of these replays as well. Just always finding these angles were so beneficial to be able to make the map like Gavutu feel so small, almost like an SMG playground, with the amount of presence that they were able to find, the streaks also being accrued, and all the space being provided. It just amounted to so much hardpoint time that United Nations just could not bounce back from. I mean, again, to your point, Brody, that was in a very impressive comeback. From 1 to 2, they only gave up about 9 seconds or so worth of hardpoint time to TMT, but going forward off of that from 3 all the way to 4, it's that play that comes through, especially for Wardy there at the end, to be able to put themselves in a position to be able to find 3 players on the cross on the backside of the jungle walk to completely upset all of United Nations' hopes to be able to break inside that hill.
Well, there you go. That's going to be 4 games in now. We've got 1 more game to go. Let's take a look at our map set for you guys to show you where we'll be going. And it is going to be Tuscan, a battle of SMGs here in this final map. And I'll tell you what, I mean, Chaxter, he highly impressed me there in that map. I think he's kind of one of the more underrated players in the scene, right? Especially as an SMG player. He has, I think, a lot to bring to the table to any given team. And he does bring a lot to the table for a TMT overall. But, you know, going back in the series as well, we look over towards that map number 2. Although you and I didn't get to watch over it, it did go to around 11, Andy.
Yeah, it sure did go to around 11 there on the Bocage Search and Destroy. And it's definitely more offering when it comes down to a Bocage Search. Again, there's a lot more of an opportunity to be able to put yourself in a position to be able to read the tendencies, because let's be honest here, there's only so much that you can end up doing on Bocage Search and Destroy. Middle of the map, maybe they go for a hit over towards the river, maybe try to hit a B hit, try to battle over towards the water wheel. Again, only so much you can do on Bocage. But when we come over towards Tuscan for a map number 5, this is where things are going to get very, very interesting, because the Kar 98K can come in play. And a lot of teams have always been favoring to be able to get that quick plant over towards A. It really comes down to the defensive sides, more or less. Who's going to be holding on to the utility? Who's going to be able to find that first blood from top church over towards top fire? And who's going to be saving those nades to be able to dissuade that bomb from going down quite early?
Yeah, for sure. You know, one thing I will say as well, I've really been loving kind of the variety of strategy we've been seeing in Search and Destroy, although the teams have done their best to hide it. You know, I think, you know, we've seen a lot of B plays coming out from a number of teams. You know, generally speaking, A is kind of the bomb site that teams do go to here on Tuscan, but we've seen more and more B pushes as teams have kind of got used to the way in which you kind of approach that bomb site, even though it is infinitely harder to overtake. Also, I think it's more infinitely rewarding when you do get that bomb down to try and defend the site. Of course, the team kind of has to rotate around via church and such, and kind of double back on themselves. So it should be interesting to see how both of these teams kind of have improved their Search and Destroy since the last time you and I will have got to cast over them. We have seen them, whatever variation of each roster we have seen play inside various maps over the course of the first few Challengers Cups. I mean, it is a small thing. I do, for some odd reason, remember this. I think Tuscan Search and Destroy was like the final map in the series where United Nations were able to eliminate that old Money Form roster. So we know they can win on this map, right? And I'm sure the stat lines will show that as well. It's just whether or not they can do it here in this game, number 5 versus a TMT roster that look pretty hot at the moment, especially off the back of the roster change they made coming into this one. As we know, they are a strong squad. They're able to take that revenge tour in that upset matchup in the qualifier. So this TMT squad, they look menacing. Now as we get into Tuscan Search and Destroy for the game number 5 here, can they close out this series, or, you know, are we going to see them get taken out by their opposition?
Definitely be interesting for all the different narratives that you propose for ourselves. We've seen these teams obviously play Tuscan Search and Destroy when you go back to even Cups number 4 when you and I were commentating over top of them, or even the qualifier as well. We've definitely seen some iterations of it, but this would still be the first time that both these two teams are playing Tuscan Search and Destroy in the first season of the Elite Qualifier. This is where everything that you've been hiding, all of the strategies that you haven't been showcasing so far, are finally going to come to play, because when it comes down to it, both these teams are not necessarily in the greatest spot. They're not in the worst spot. You know, obviously they are looking at least having themselves some wins on the day so far, or I guess TMT would be the only team that could absolutely benefit from this getting a win, seeing as they are now 0-3. But even still, this would be a massive success for both of these two teams, especially when you're looking at this from UN's perspective. You know, you able to get this win. You're then going to be 2-2 overall in between yesterday and today for your matches. Even bigger for TMT, if they can win out this match to be 1-3, would definitely be in a better spot, solidifying yourself in between those last few teams going in towards next week's play as well, Brody. It's going to be quite telling to be able to see what these teams have to offer for ourselves, with so much riding on the line as we reach that halfway margin here in the first season of the European Challengers Elite. A lot of pressure is going to be felt. You just almost hope for these two teams that desperation doesn't start to ensue.
Yeah, absolutely, of course. This very much likely will be the final map of Europe for a week number 2. Everything has been incredible, seeing all of the European teams going at one another. I think it's going to be really weird to see kind of what the final standings look like at the end of day number 2 between all of these various teams. You know, I think there's been some crazy upsets in terms of specific maps, but for the most part, I think everything has kind of happened as we expected it. Some of the strongest teams have come out, and they have come out to play. But here we have two teams that this will be a really important match, I think, overall for qualification for that playoff bracket. A reminder for you folks at home, only 4 teams will be making their way towards that playoff bracket of the 8 playing here in Elite Stage 1 for Europe The other 4 teams will be eliminated and sent towards relegation. We're jumping here into map number 5. United Nations versus TMT. And right at the gate, Jackster going to draw first blood. Henry tries to get that bomb down, and A immediately punished for his kind of aggression.
And that's what I was talking about. The team's starting to really learn the timing to be able to find that sort of value to get that bomb down. Jerd tries to correct it by challenging Wardy inside the church, but he's going to have that advantage now. Abusa in a 1v4. And there's Maple with a sniper. Things that we definitely have been able to come to expect. You know, Maple's one of those guys, again, you know, you go back to old Singularity, even back in Modern Warfare, right? It's always just such a nuisance with that AX50. Now has the Kar 98K to play with. We didn't get to see, obviously, any sniper play coming out of Maple through Cold War, but it even goes further than that. I mean, the Rat pistol we were talking about earlier is absolutely filthy. I see what Maple was able to do with that pistol. It almost feels like a little pocket SMG.
Yep, for sure. Well, jumping in back into this one now, of course, it's going to be Maple with that sniper rifle, as you say. It's a pretty deadly weapon in anybody's hands, but Maple, that's a set nade and a half coming out from Henry, and the aggression from United Nations, that is a strategy right there from them. This is what they were hiding from us in the Challengers Cups a few weeks back, and it works out perfectly as it leaves BB Connor all on his lonesome. 1 versus 4. BB Connor versus the world, and he doesn't really have much to work with here.
Nope, not at all. So he's just going to go ahead and yeet himself in towards the fountain. Just want to, you know, get his feet a little wet, but want to even be able to get there in time. And yeah, that was a great set, Nate, that honestly comes all the way through. This is that, you know, progression that we're talking about when you brought up the overall meta shift that we're starting to see. Because when you're considering the fact, I mean, competitive Vanguard, it's still in, like, its infant phase. We're not even in the teenage years right now, if you're considering that comparatively to where it is in its game cycle, Brody. And teams are really starting to learn a lot of these set nades, and it's going to come through here and now as Henry finds 3 in that round, 2 away from getting closer and closer towards that glide bomb. Offense last time around, they tried to get a little squirrely, try to get themselves that very quick plant. Seems that Henry's going to take a little bit of a different angle. They also have some help right behind them as well. Shaxter, nice little angle. We'll deny it.
There's a trade immediately coming through here. Jerd, he's been pretty good with these nades. Can he land one? Fortunately, not going to throw it in any particular direction where a player will be standing. But Jerd trying to get this bomb down. You can see that BB Connor is in a position to stop it if he decides to jump on through. There's nobody in the mid-map to deal with them. Wardy is going to be the player that make the challenge. Nicely done from that man to take out Jerd. Of course, I was going to say fortunately for United Nations, somebody is there to pick up the slack and pick up the bomb. That would be Whalers. The last player peeks out at you, but at this point, it's way too late. A 1 versus 3 is nigh on impossible.
I mean, that was just silly coming out from Wardy. Like, slow rolls around that corner, goes towards that contest spot, if you will, and, well, correct me if I'm wrong, I actually believe that's two defenses in a row that you actually have Shaxter playing in the same exact position in that little cubby spot, middle of the map, to look at you and to deny that bomb plant. You don't see that angle unless you fly through the middle of the map. So unless Shaxter gets dealt with, if he keeps denying the bomb plant for coming through, expecting for him to do that continuously. See Maple like, I'm going to throw my stuns. Not going to get taken out by a nade this time. Respectful call.
Oh, this for a bomb plant. Shaxter gets it straight down. The aggression works out for TMT. But Abuser with a nice set nade takes down Shaxter. That's a nice throw in armor of him in there. Somebody get him to the NFL as Abuser takes down Wardy as well. Is Maple left up in a 1 versus 4 with a sniper rifle in hand. Somehow, I doubt he's going to be able to do this, and I think he has the same amount of confidence in himself. It's like, nope, not having it.
We're pretty high up here on Tuscan, by the way. Isle Shift and I were actually talking about this a couple days ago, too. You know, you always forget how high up you truly are. I mean, there's also a lot of fire on that side of the map, too. So, I mean, you know, pick your poison, I guess. But even still, yeah, beautiful nades coming through. That was a 3-player hit defensively that came through from United Nations over towards maps. You typically see an offensive team try to favor towards that, but a 3-player wrap defensively through maps, it's almost very rare that you end up seeing like that. Again, the meta forever evolving here on Search and Destroy, and United Nations said, hey, we quite like that defensively. Let's do it offense. TMT, I mean, they're not even set up to look at this so far. It's going to be Wardy that's going to be late to this push. He's got to go 1 for 1.
Wardy going to peek away at the right time here. Peeks towards the back line. Oh, almost loses that fight to Henry. Almost has his camera broken. Jerd is going to trade the gunfight anyway. Can he get a second? The answer is no. I don't think he quite expected Shaxter to get to that line as quickly as he did. Now this will leave Abuser in a bit of an awkward spot. Abuser dealing with the situation really well so far. Dipping and diving away. Has managed to escape the clutches of these players. Oh! He just turned on that player. I think he actually had help from the back line, but regardless, Abuser going to be pretty happy with that. Yeah, he did have help. Okay, it's all good.
I mean, it was some help, but still, I mean, like, the turnaround is still impressive to be able to not only keep their life, but also be able to lock down the kill as well. Buse is now on 4 in a row, inching their way closer and towards those glide bombs. And when we talk about resources and streaks, especially on Search and Destroy, the glide bomb can almost guarantee you a kill if you catch players off guard, but it's even better for a post-plant situation. TMT, now for a 2-2 offense, trying to go for this very quick plant, but again, it's rinse, wash, repeat. United Nations trying to get players in towards maps. It seems like Connor understands that this is going to be the play. They're dissuading the push from coming through.
TMT do expect that push, as you say. United Nations, are they going to go for it? That's going to be the question. Jordan Henry now making the move. BB Connor putting the first few shots in. Can he walk away with a gunfight? Whalers is on the other side of this play. He is potentially someone who could break this deadlock, but it will be Abuser who finally strikes first. Henry with a kill of his own now, and now Abuser wants to use this streak. They know they kind of have to potentially to locate these players. There is the last one against Maple, and that is good streak utilization coming out of United Nations. They want to press the advantage here in this game number 5.
It's impressive, right? I mean, they get immediately pushed back. It had to have been a nade that came through from the defensive player, or the offensive player, excuse me, on the rooftops inside of maps. But Abusa able to fly in towards the staircase and catch this last player off guard by even calling in the glide bomb immediately. You know, typically we'll see the glide bomb being earned, and then the collapse coming through. They were winning the gunfights regardless, Brody. But to solidify the round, winning 2 in a row is massive for United Nations, because now the momentum is on their side. They are in the heads of TMT rent-free, that they never really know which they're going to be stacking towards. And United Nations, again, they're going to continuously try to call TMT's bluff. They're going to try to shift some focus, throw some nades over towards this area. Maybe try to go for a little bit of a fake play, but they're clearing out maps right now with the bomb in Henry's hands. Could be a little bit of a delayed push towards B, but they still have the option to cut mid-map and try to get back over towards A as well.
Abuser will have just seen rotation from BB Connor over towards this side of the map. TMT, well, they're ready for it. They're able to pick up that first blood. BB Connor going to take down Jerd, but that is not enough to dissuade Henry from getting this bomb down. They know they still have the advantage in terms of map control. They don't care about the fact that they have a man down, and now Henry going to reposition up towards this balcony area. Just going to lay down, sit pretty for a little bit while TMT make their way onto the site. Chaxter and BB Connor, they've got their way over here. They're like, where the hell is everybody? But elsewhere, Wardy takes down one. Maple with another one as well. And now Henry chooses to strike. Probably a bit of an inopportune time at this point, though, as the rest of his team have fallen around him. That is a good retake coming in from TMT.
My eyes were asphyxiated on Whalers trying to make that very, very long flank. Actually got all the way in the backside of the church. Was kind of insane when you're considering that simple fact that, A, how the heck did they find that time to be able to do that, and well, they deal with him no less. Being able to finally stop that bleeding, the United Nations was really starting to find for themselves, and look, you already know that the glide bomb's taken away, so as long as you can fall back, start reading some of the tendencies, and just overall collapse, win these gunfights for TMT, you'll find yourself in a very even game. Min-map pressure seems to be the go-for. Jackster trying to go for this quick play here today.
Get this down. More likely than not, will win the round. Of course, that pressure now coming through from United Nations, though. They will have to back away for now. Chaxter trying to reposition through Church, trying to back away now as well as those first few shots come through. He won't be able to. Now Maple, what can he do? Nice play from Jerd to try and take him out. United Nations, slowly but surely, they are storming this site, and now they've just got to push BB Connor and Wardy away. It is a 2 versus 3. BB Connor up here does get taken out of the play. That's down to Jerd, and that's everybody as well. Nicely done from United Nations. A brilliant retake, and it puts them here on match point.
It's so gross. Just the way the United Nations are fishing out information. And they don't hesitate once they get that information either, Brody. I mean, go back to when the bomb was actually being planted. They see that there's one player over by the monument just throwing shots, just dissuading those players from trying to stop that plant from coming through. So they said, all right, that's fine. We'll wait for the plant to go down, wait for a regen, and then they double chow, take down the first player, take down the bomb planter as they're trying to rotate away. They get the immediate information that BB Connor was up top fire, and then 2 players wrap through vines and come from behind. This is gross. Real clinical stuff coming away from United Nations as far as Search and Destroy. They are decisive on what they're looking for. Stun's going to come through. It's going to hit Jerd, so they're going to be a little bit dissuaded from trying to push over towards the bomb site, but they're taking this opportunity to actually push all the way through the back.
This is a bold move coming through from Jerd, right? He's got that bomb. If it drops there, it probably puts this round out of reach for United Nations. But if anything, it just puts the pressure on so that TMT are nowhere near this plant. That being said, it's not that successful of a play if that was the attempt, because Chaxter does put the bullets in towards Jerd. He has to back away for the moment, and now Chaxter's just going to sit over towards that fountain. Jerd's still not really sure to get this bomb down.
I mean, you don't know where Chaxter ended up putting themselves into. You remember the last time that we ended up having this little escapade for ourselves. Jerd will fully check the corner. Chaxter is not playing that angle, so the bomb's going to go down. Jerd gets out with their life.
Keep an eye on Abuser in the play as well. He's in the mini-map. He could well be the playmaker for United Nations if they even need him. But that said, I think they will. Got to call a siren for Abuser to come over and help them out. They do lose the first couple of gunfights, but now Abuser is here. That pressure from those two power positions can be overwhelming. And somehow, in the next 20 seconds or so, even shorter than that, TMT have to find a response from these two players. They are taking quite a lot of time to do it. So Chaxter going to jump on the defuse. Can Wailers put a stop to it? No is the answer. He will end up falling. Can Abuser put a stop to it? No. He gets the first kill. Won't be any more. Wally puts some shots into the body, and I don't know if that's a good idea. You're still 5-4 down.
Yeah, you're still technically down. You know, how many times have we got to talk about it, Brody, that you don't shoot bodies until you know you got an advantage? Even Clayton, our producer in the background, is saying, hey, that's pretty questionable, and I'd agree with you, Clayton, because that's, oh, karma is a female dog. You just hope that it doesn't come back to bite Wardy in the rear end. So we'll have to see, because that was, overall, was a great collapse, dealing with the contest spot up on top fire, and dealing with the potential flank through the middle of the map as well. Round by round, TMT are clawing their way back. To be able to win this one on offense has been definitely their weaker side. United Nations actually going back to an older strategy, trying to go for 3 players inside a map. Set nades out from Abuser, was able to find the kill the last time, and it does it again.
Now, these set nades have been detrimental to TMT. They haven't found an answer pretty much all search and destroy long, regardless of how close this one has been, and now they find themselves at a disadvantage. They know they have to get this bomb down. They're going for it, but look on the mini-map, Wailers. He wants to put a stop to it. Can he get that kill? No, Wardy slips away. That's just how fast Vanguard is, but this collapse will now come on through. BB Connor, he's ready for it. He's able to get one. The trade is in from Henry. Now, a 2 versus 3 for Wardy and Maple. They're pretty split up here to try and defend this site. I think this is, if anything, just to throw United Nations off. Wardy able to pick up one, doesn't turn around for the second. Now, all down to Maple. Does Henry make this call? He's going to go for it. He gets to see... Oh, he's seen him as well. Henry going to peek out from the window. Maple, there's a player on the defuse. You've got to go for it. The kill with a rat, and he will get it done. That is a nice shot coming through from Maple. He's going to win this round regardless of whether or not Henry stays alive. He'll be more than happy about that one.
I mean, look, the player was standing still, or I guess crouching still, while the bomb was being defused. But still, I mean, Maple with the pistol, solid centering to be able to stop that defuse from coming through. The bomb will detonate, will go to around 11, and my hands started sweating during the middle of that, I'm not gonna lie, because Abuser with those set nades coming out of top maps through that window. Again, a very rehearsed nade. You don't land that nade just by going, oh, you know, I'm gonna try this nade inside this this elite match here in round robin. No, you obviously have that rehearsed, as Abuser finds it 2 times over, is double positive going to round 11. It's gonna be TMT on offense. They're going to be met over top of this field. All 4 players defensively for United Nations are right around the corner.
And there's those set nades. Henry, it's going to be him to draw first blood this time around. Every single round, they have fallen foul to them, but the bomb is now down. It puts a timer on this round. 40 seconds. United Nations, they have the numbers to make this retake work. Chaxter sits patiently, though, in bottom. Church wins the first gunfight. Does anybody react? The answer is no. Jerd going to win a gunfight elsewhere. And look at this route coming through from Chaxter. He wants to throw United Nations off here in this play, but as BB Connor falls, I don't think that option is really even realistic anymore. Chaxter has to win a 1v3. He just has to stop the defuse coming through, and he has the position to do it. He wins that first gunfight. Now, does that player up top, Jerd, realize where he is? No is the answer! Chaxter wins a 1 versus 3 to clutch up the play. And what a monumental moment here for TMT. They were 0-3 down coming into this series, Andy. They needed this victory.
The body shots are warranted. That's all I'm going to say. Body shots are warranted. Out of there. That's, wow. I mean, in between 2 different clutch situations, you had Maple with the pistol up top, with the rat pistol to be able to stop the defuse. It went down the time before the bomb detonated. Chaxter made a godlike play there at the end. Again, they were that player. They were all the way inside a church. They found that kill inside a church. Obviously, the communication is going to come through. Hey, he's on our side of the map. And then he makes the full wrap. He had enough time to make the full wrap around maps, get back inside of the fire alleyway, and then they end up finding the first, reposition to find the second, knowing that the player's going to be looking through that window. And then you got to challenge. If you're the last player for United Nations, you have to challenge at that point to stop him from stopping you from defusing. I mean, just don't count him out. Just don't count that. Wow.
Wow. He gets that first kill. I am just mind blown, in the words of Nameless. I'm sure he'll be very happy at the moment. I'm sure that's exactly what he'd say. Let's take a look at the replay for that final 1 versus 3. We see it from Chaxter's POV, just 18 seconds left on the clock. It's that power position, right? It's the most it's the most dominant position here in Vanguard, honestly. It's so horrible to deal with. Chaxter, nutty. And the thing is as well, that last player doesn't even have the time. So like, even if Chaxter doesn't win that gunfight, he wins the round. He's already done it, I think, with the first kill, to be honest. The reposition to come round from Fanny. It's just beautiful. Beautiful play from Chaxter. Props to you, my friend, as you walk away with the play of the day, the 1 versus 3 to clutch up round 11. Andy, this is what we live for, man. This is Call of Duty Challenges, quite literally.
I mean, you know, hats off to Young Galactics for 3-0ing Flux Esports. Otherwise, we probably wouldn't have been able to get in to see that that little play there at the end. Let's say, but you know, at the end of it all, again, yeah, it's what we live for, man. And it's obviously what Chaxter lives for as well. You know, this is why when we're highlighting TMT as a roster, obviously they ended up losing the Revenge Tour in their first match of the day. Revenge Tour did get, well, their revenge here on their tour, but TMT, this was such a massive win for them. Again, you know, with that upset in the qualifiers, they finally get themselves on the board with a series win, Brody. This is massive for them going forward. Strides in the right direction because you're able to see little plays like that. I mean, Maple was able to find value early with a sniper rifle. They got red, obviously, tendencies later on down the road. I thought all of these set nades in between Henry and Abuser were going to be the final, if not the many different nails in the coffin. But again, just one more time, it is so typical for Chaxter to be able to hit so many different routes and flanks like that on a dime, to be able to turn that round back on its head and close it out 3 rounds in a row for TMT to win that series. That's crazy.
That's crazy. We love these moments here in Call of Duty Challenges. Let's take a look at how that affects everything as we move over towards the schedule. Of course, that is Europe done for the day. That's Europe done for week number 1, and what a conclusion as well. What a moment for Chaxter to win that 1 versus 3, though. Of course, we ourselves are not done. Coming very soon, 18 and Cracked going head-to-head with UYU. That's going to be a banger of a matchup. I know Andy and I were very excited for that, but perhaps even more exciting, the surprise of stage number 1, whatever it takes, going head-to-head with the number 1 seed coming into stage 1, Texas Nation. We know that gods can bleed because Texas Nation did lose a match in their qualifier. For whatever it takes, I mean, looking at those matches, they are in with a real chance, especially with how they performed yesterday.
North America is very competitive right now, and it's thanks to a whole lot of upsets. You're right to assume, Brody. I could not be any more excited to see how that entire region is going to shake up. You got 2 teams that are undefeated, Team Raw and whatever it takes. It's not done being shooken up. We have so many more games of Call of Duty left to be played here in Season 1 of the Elite.
Yeah, indeed we do. Well, that's going to do it, I think, for week number 1. Of course, everything has been shaken up here in Europe. Everything looks super awesome. Of course, we kicked off the day by looking at a Game 5 thriller between the Originals and Sucrees Bakery, the former of which are able to take that. Then, Young Galactics 3-0 over Flux. But this was the play to close us out. Chaxter with a 1 versus 3 that has shaken up European challenges, has kept them alive. Beautifully done, I think, here overall, as we look over towards this one return to North America very, very soon.